And begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On behalf of the Planning Commission, I'd like to welcome you to our Planning Commission meeting for June 9, 2026. For those of you that have not been with us before, our standard procedure is for the applications to look to our staff, our engineer, our planner, for background on the applications. Look to the applicant for their input and comments. Invite comments from anyone in the audience. And then we deliberate and make a decision. And during the course of the hearing, sometimes we'll ask questions, or clarification, that sort of thing. And so that's our process. Our first item is a review of the minutes from our last Planning Commission meeting, which was on May 9, 2026. And I'd look for any comments or a motion to approve.
I'll move that we approve them.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The first item is the Planning Commission will consider the request of the property owner at 100 West Long Lake Road for site plan approval for exterior modifications, landscaping, and a new ground sign. And as we do this, I'd just like to offer just one sort of global preface comment, just so we're on the same page. The forms are a little different. And one thing I noticed is it says under the site plan review, it says in the rule, and it says under section 24-236A, preliminary and final site plans must be submitted to the Planning Commission for approval. In reviewing a site plan, the section directs that the commission shall consider the following, and only these matters define the scope of the site plan review. And the word only is not in the ordinance, and when we do a site plan review, the scope of our review is more than just these five bullets that are here. There's a number of things that are included in a site plan review. I mean, grading, if people have antennas on their building, I mean, there's a whole range of items that are included in a site plan review, and it extends well beyond the 5 items that are listed here. So I just wanted to clarify that that's the scope of our review.
And for the record, Mr. Chair, I agree with your analysis and your outline opinions there.
Okay. So I don't know who wrote this.
Yeah, I mean, I just, I believe that in this case, I don't think there's anything meant by it, but I think what was meant by it, there's a lot of items in this sort of rehabilitation of the building that hasn't changed. So there's a lot of things that you'll probably find as you go through the full site plan review that have not changed. And eventually you'll get to the point where you'll find the few things that you're going to be really focusing on. Design standards. One thing is
There's landscaping. There's
the
exterior changes.
Yeah. I take your point.
Okay. I didn't know who wrote this.
Yeah.
And this is a new form, and I didn't want anyone to be misled.
Nothing meant by it. I mean, I probably should have, it'll be
Okay.
better next time.
Okay. Not a big deal, just so everyone's on the same page. Perfect.
Good evening,
Okay.
or good
Jill?
afternoon. Jill Bain, Giffords Webster,
Yeah.
planning consultant. And I think just to sort of reiterate that, or add on to it. You notice the reports are a little bit different. We have been working on a little bit more of a straightforward presentation model, really aimed at helping both the planning commission as well as the applicant, as well as anybody else who happens to be here or watching, understand what the planning commission's role is with respect to the ordinance. And so we're looking at certainly those things that are mentioned under site plan review, but that's inherent in that, to your point, is just verifying completeness with conformance with the rest of the ordinance. Yes.
So Jill, there's no document with the reference to Giffords Webster in the material. Did your office participate in the creation of this planning commission review guide?
That was created by staff with our input as well, yes.
So I didn't miss anything from your office in this?
No, our reports have been modified to the black and gold that you see in an effort to be more consistent with what the direction is here, being more straightforward and simplifying things, just to make it more clear, both for the applicant, so they understand what you're reviewing, and to help the planning commissioners understand better. Sometimes our letters get a little lengthy, and in the effort to convey thoroughness and completeness of review, but really trying to help boil it down to what are we here for? What is being asked of you, and what is the applicant expecting?
Going forward, I would appreciate if there's some recognition of your office in these reports, just
Sure.
so we have a tie back to an outside consultant and Interior
Good point.
Administration.
We should do that. All right.
And just to add to that, some of the comment that has been in past letters, for me, it's been helpful. I can usually get through the ordinance really pretty well. Oftentimes, the color that in the background material that's furnished with your letters is helpful to me. So I don't, know where you're headed with this.
Well, I think what we're trying to balance is in these letters, there's subjective statements by planners sort of justifying what the applicants may or may not have considered, in my opinion. So I think it's up to the applicant to actually get up here and tell you why they have aluminum siding, why they think that material is right, why they're doing this and why they're doing that, why they put these trees and bushes in certain areas. I think it's up to them. I just want, the planner should be representing what the task is, what we're looking at. They've reviewed everything, and then have the applicants sort of fill in all that color, so that we're not speaking for them, because I don't think it's appropriate for our planners to speak for them. They may have a whole different, actually, I've seen this sort of reasoning in past meetings, a little bit different, and that's just really good practice to have the planners, the applicants to tell the tale of why they're here, and it's their job to sell it to you, what they want.
And maybe this isn't the right place to go into all this detail, but what I would offer, and you see reviews in other communities, generally, when the planners do their review, there is some background material. So, for example, I'm going to go back to maybe cases where there were previous applications, or if there are screening considerations that it's helpful. It's been helpful to me. I'm not going to speak for anyone else. But if there's a question about screening, to understand this matter was reviewed, they adjusted it in some fashion, this is where they're at. So we can sort of parse. We've always had the opinion that the planners should reserve their opinion about a particular application or item in an application, that the commission will sort through those details. But some of that background, thinking back to an application we had a couple months ago where the applicant was proposing to put a pool house in, and it surfaced during the discussion that 6 months or 6 years earlier, it had been in front of the ZBA. So, those kinds of things. And I see with, for example, in the next application where we've got the signage, we've discussed in the past, geez, it's always helpful to have the minutes from that meeting where we approved it.
Yeah.
And so, and we're doing that, so I think.
We'll look to try to
Yeah.
balance that.
Yeah,
We
just so,
certainly can help
because this
all
is
that.
pretty, I can get through the ordinance,
Yeah.
but having that background in the benefit of what you may have done is helpful to me.
I just know at times that what I see is there's a lot of questions to the planners that really I like to hear the applicant talk about, because
Sure.
that's where I think it belongs. And the sooner we get the applicant up there, the sooner we can find out all these details and what you may be concerned about and not concerned about. Planners can certainly say, well, we talked to them about that, but it's sort of a third person type of thing. Why not just talk to the person that's here? That's kind of what we're trying to do, but certainly we'll discuss that and see if we can add some color or something.
Right.
In that regard, Dave, consider that we're looking at this in sort of a vacuum, while there's ongoing discussion about many of these for months. It's helpful to us, it's helpful to me, to understand, to glean some of the benefit that you have, because we're just reading this, and without knowing some of that background, I think you're just sort of like wondering, well, did you consider this? Whereas if you've got in your memo, we've discussed this, and this is the presentation, so it's not something that's not been considered. I don't know, I don't want to get bogged down in that.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Because we're just, you
You
know,
gotta
we.
be awesome between all the meetings they had, because they've had 6 months of meetings and they've had so many renditions and iterations of everything, so where do you draw the line?
Sure.
And I think this is what they want, so let's
Yeah.
talk about it, you know?
So, anyways,
Well, we'll jump right in then.
Yeah.
you bet.
So here is our project today, 100 West Long Lake Road, right here on the north side of Long Lake, west of Woodward, which is over here, and right adjacent to this little street here, Longwood. So we have a renovation of the 3-story office building, which is interesting because we're going to talk about office a little bit more later on this afternoon. But what we're talking about here is a 561 square foot atrium addition, replacing some of the exterior facade with aluminum composite materials and bronze tinted glass, 2 roof canopies, and then there's some minor parking modifications as well. I guess I could make this big screen. There we go. Oh, that's a little bit nicer. Okay, so here we're looking again at site plan, the landscape plan. Part of the site plan consideration is the design standards, and there is a sign as well here. So we can see from the aerial the existing surrounding developments, no wetlands or any other issues like that here. What we do have though is two front yards. So as our yard maps are always helpful to visualize, we have Long Lake Road here and Longwood Drive over here, which leaves us the green areas as the front yard. So the project though really, from the materials standpoint, is visible from these roads. But this atrium is the 561 square foot addition, and that is sort of tucked into the corner that really faces out to the northeast, somewhat to the facing east as well, but not very visible from Long Lake Road. So we've got the atrium and the awning, and then there is, however, an awning on this side as well. So this is the building now. You'll note that there is quite a few nonconformities with this building. The algebraic setback, the algebraic formula doesn't comply here with the existing setback on the Long Lake Road side. On the Longwood side, the algebraic setback complies, but because there is a minimum of 45 feet, that one overrides, whichever is greater, the one that's greater overrides, and so that is where we're deficient here on this side. Again, these are existing nonconformities. This is the impact of the awning that's proposed on the east side of the building facing Longwood. The awning there is 12 feet wide, or 12 feet projecting out, and so they will be seeking a variance of 19 feet from the ZBA. Some views of what the project will look like. So again, this is the driveway. This is facing Longwood, the current main entry. So very much an enhanced appearance from the main entry, from the parking lot there. There's some slight modification to restriping some parking spaces to add in some additional ADA parking spaces, and that was something that we noted they were deficient in, and they've revised that to provide a little bit more of that. So they have more than enough parking to comply, so that isn't really an issue. One of the things that we noted is the dumpster enclosure, which is over here. So here again, we've got, imagine Long Lake is down here, Longwood is on the right side. There's a little dumpster that's tucked in back here, and their path goes this way to get to it. We may find a little bit of a pinch point here. We can talk with the applicant about that and how they may have thought to resolve that, and then I'm sure they can work with the building official as well as the engineer on any refinements that need to happen for that. So this is the floor plan of the atrium and the canopy addition. Again, just the different views of that. The height there, we've got a 35-foot high maximum, with the existing building height is 38.5 feet, and the proposed building height will remain that high, but again, it's a nonconformity. We have a dimensional variance here for the designated loading zone as well, which will be right along this space here in the driveway. They do have a proposed landscape plan retaining some of the existing maple trees, adding some linden and ginkgo on the site, which will add some nice color there and relief from some of the hardscape, as well as Japanese maple, some additional grasses, hydrangea, and annual flowers to add in some color there as well. Part of the project is also a sign, the proposed ground-mounted building sign. Ecojiva is the name of the building, and it's proposed here. This sign does comply with the standards of the sign ordinance, so that is a good thing. We have, again, another photo of the side of the building where the proposed awning will go. I can go back to that other one if that's helpful. But just some different views here. And that is the roundup of the images. Happy to answer any questions that you might have, or as well, we can bring the applicant up and have them explain a little bit more about what they're doing.
Any questions for Jill? You done good?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, do we have any engineering issues, Leah?
I can speak. Sorry. No, you're good.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Leah Michaels with HRC. As far as engineering, we didn't require any drainage improvements, as all the modifications were to the building and not necessarily to the site. There's one item that we did note in our letter, that the proposed sign does encroach slightly into an existing water main easement that's out there. The applicant is aware of this and does acknowledge that if there is any water main repairs that need to occur in that area within the easement, it will be their responsibility to make modifications and fix any damage to the sign. So that was really the only engineering item that we have.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Do we require a letter on that, Mark?
Yes, I would recommend that.
Okay. Right, so
Not just
if-
a letter, but
if-
an agreement.
Yeah, an agreement, yeah. So if this goes through, we'll just need an agreement that They
take care of
will.
that.
We normally do that.
Yep.
If it's a homeowner or a, commercial building like this.
All right, is the applicant here?
Good afternoon. Good to see everybody. Matt Mosier with Mosier Design Landscape Architecture. I'm with the architect for the building, Lou DeRosier, today, and the owner of the building, SK Ayers, who's joining us here as well. I'm going to quickly go over the outside, the stuff you see from the street. Lou's going to talk about the building itself, and then we're going to answer any questions, of course, that you have. As many of you have seen, because you probably drive by this building quite often, it's in need of a refresh. We feel that we have a nice plan to make that happen and make it in a way that's in the spirit of what the city wants and at the class and elegance level that the city appreciates. And lastly, a timeless approach that is not a fad, but something that we can all appreciate for many, many years to come. On my part, I'll keep it fairly brief. We are redoing all the landscaping. It's quite tired. Most of the trees are either diseased or dead. A lot of old ground cover, things like that. So as you've seen in your packet, full new landscape plan, exceeding the tree requirements by about 50%. So putting a lot of nice new trees in and really giving it a nice streetscape. I'll just go through, and if you have questions, you can pull it up. And then, some of the elements like that wall that you see in the picture there, will be just adding just a very minor cut there to be able to plant some ivy and things, really soften that up. And from there, the building will be brought to life. But really, we're going to take the site from a landscape perspective and just really bring it up to speed. And again, something that everybody will drive by and go, wow, that's really well done. So I'll let Lou speak about the building, and I think either of us can answer questions you have.
Great. Amy, usually help me up here with this. I wanted to show our presentation. Oh.
I didn't get a separate presentation from you.
No, it's the normal one that we have, that we were just showing. Oh, maybe you have for. Okay, it's really not this presentation. It's the one that we made all the prints for everyone.
I did not load that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the most important thing to have loaded. So I'm sorry. It's too late now, right?
Well, I apologize. You emailed it last month, but I did not get it this month. So I think Jill puts a lot of it in.
Right. Well, I guess a lot of you have seen it. Well, it shows before and after and all sorts of relationships.
You've got all these images you can use, and then if
Okay.
you want to, I think that might be a good one.
Actually, I'd start with the 3Ds. All of you have received those papers, all right. So on the front of that whole thing is the presentation. I apologize, I didn't know, Amy, I didn't coordinate on that. But here's the most important thing here. First of all, a nostalgic note. I've been working in this community, my father and I, if you combined our careers, 100 years. He started with St. Hugo's of the Hills Church. I've done Northern Trust, Penske's headquarters. So we've been in your community a lot, done a lot of work here. So we just want you to know that. So we're really excited about changing this. Do you want to run this? Let's see if you can find that. I had a great before and after. I think it's in your brochure, in your drawings. I apologize. Yeah, I have a.
Yeah, right there.
There you go. Perfect. So this building needed, a total uplift. I mean, my architectural goal here is to bring this into 2026. This building is 52 years old, okay? 40,000 feet. We're only adding 500 square feet. This is an entire exterior revamp. Can we show it from the, yeah, well, that's one of the shots, okay. I apologize, I wish we had those in there, but that's all right. I think it's very important to understand that we're doing a complete exterior facade upgrade, okay? And that we're doing a new entry, a new lobby, and a new canopy. I'm going to show you, I brought samples of the materials and so forth. And so the basic exterior, you can kind of see it here pretty well. That is a curtain wall system. It's with bronze insulated glass. and spandrel glass mixed so they all look the same color. And then we have, the rest of it is a product called Alumaclad, which is a heavy gauge aluminum cladding. And just to make you feel more comfortable, the company's been in business 57 years. They've been around a long time. It's a metal composite framing system with the joint, open joint rain screen panels, and they're painted, they're warranted at least 20 years before any fading would occur. So you see this around town very much. And we did a very beautiful texture here. Here, if you could, mind, I'll just hold them up and show you. And if we can pass these around, if you want to see them closer. And if you want to actually hold the product. But this is the wood look. This is the product of that wood look that makes it feel warm and cozy, which we like. There's only 3 materials: glass, and this wood material, which I'll place down here, and then the rest of all the other metal products that you see are this heavy gauge bronze. This is all a very thick product, as you can see, warranted for life. And the only thing, the only thing for the 20 years is the paint fading is probably. I'll show you, I think all of you probably know what bronze glass looks like, but hey, you asked for samples, so why not? So here's bronze glass that goes with all of this on the front. It looks just like those renderings in real life. I'm sure you've seen it around. Let's see here, I'll just put this right behind here. And hopefully, I better lay it down. That would be dangerous. Anyhow, it's a pleasure to be here. I meant to say that with all of you. So we're very proud of this building. I think, I'm not sure, can you show me the other ones? This isn't my computer, so I'm not familiar. So there's 2 shots. That other front view, let's go back to the first one for 1 minute, sorry. This is from driving down Long Lake Road. You keep hearing, everyone calls these awnings, and I call them sun louvers. But that's just a word, but they've written the word awning so much that now I might as well start using it. But it's really lets the sun in, and it's very nice. It's on the eastern sun is very powerful in the morning when it comes up. And this is done for architectural reasons, but also for practical reasons to keep people protected inside. And by the way, when we first designed this, we've already cut back in some areas. That used to be 16 feet. I cut it back to 12 feet. And then we heard this, I had a beautiful deck there that you could be underneath there on the 2nd floor. And then we heard that a little rumor, I don't know where it came from, that you guys didn't like the decks outside too much on commercial buildings, and so we took it away. It wasn't that important. So I just want you to know we're trying to work with you in the beginning before we even got here, okay? So the other thing is we have, the problem with this building is we have a unique condition. This structure, it can't be built with masonry. It's a building that's floating, and by the way, you can see what a great job we've done hiding all the cars with the landscaping. Covering it is beautifully done. And so I'm glad to get rid of that. So this building, as you know, is floating on stilts. So it's not, it can't be, you can't just hang masonry all over this thing. We'd have to rebuild the whole building if we were trying to change the look of it. So we've got this floating canopy up there, which is beautiful. And that's what, because of that, we have this unique condition that mandates us to have these panels on the building. And you can see I minimized them though. The glass is most of the building. We can go to some other next view. So then this is what it used to, well, go back one and we're gonna play, we'll show you, before and after. And this is what this beautiful entrance looks like here. And then this is as you turn the corner. And that's why, you can't unfortunately see that from Long Lake. So we worked at, that's why I think it's interesting to have the relationship of the canopy on the front, as you say, awning, that matches the one when you drive up. There's another couple more views, I think. As you get closer, it's very beautiful atrium, 3 stories high. Yes, we're going to sprinkle it and everything before and after there. So that's good right there. So we think that these, the panels and the glass and the canopy, they're very harmonious design. We think that this is going to be great. They're across all the public view is going to see a brand new building, all these sides. And we think the colors are pleasant and subtle, and we're not trying to draw your attention to it, although we want the building that hasn't been noticed too much for 52 years to be noticed. And the last thing I just want to say is we're very excited about this project. We hope that you are. And we do understand, and we appreciate your approval is contingent upon the ZBA's part that they'll be doing, which is about setbacks, sun louvers, the atrium, and the canopy heights in the loading area. So we hope that you'll work with us on this. We're very enthusiastic about it. And that's most of it, unless you have other questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
From what I understand, 60% of the facade will be clad in aluminum, is that correct?
No. 60% will be clad with the new surface, wall surface that you see in these pictures,
It's not
which is
aluminum?
glass. See the brown area? You can see the sample I was showing you. Believe it or not, that is aluminum right here. This is brown. That looks like wood, but it's aluminum.
It's aluminum.
Yeah, it's great.
So 60% of the building will be clad?
That is correct.
So
and
our ordinance says that you can only use aluminum for accents.
Well-
Can you explain the hardship that you're dealing with in order to
I can do
get
that.
past that?
Well, I did cover it, but I probably did it too quickly.
State it again.
This building is existing, is already floating on stilts, as you can see. It's not designed to carry the structure, to carry heavy loads of other products. So with the products it can carry are glass and aluminum. And so that's our whole reason for working with that, because we can't rebuild the whole building.
But is the current structure built from brick and,
No, the current structure, you can show it back, those are just metal panels with single glazing, meaning even single thick, which, by the way, talk about a great thing, and I commend the client. I mean, they're living in a single glazed building now. We don't even have those anymore. They're all insulated. So all our glass is going to be new insulated glass.
and would you consider it to be stronger and more durable than what's on the building now?
Oh, what we're doing? Oh, tremendously, yeah. I mean, those panels are 52 years old. But the real reason is we had to change the glass out anyhow. So and you'll notice we have way less metal in our new design. And by the way, very few people are going to really know that this is metal. They're going to say, gee, that's pretty, whatever it is.
They used to make this metal so that, like you see there at oil cans, it ripples, but with this new structural, you don't get that. And so you can't tell it's metal, it's a lightweight composite. So what you see there, you don't get that effect.
What is it that doesn't fade? You made a comment.
Oh, no, I just, Lucabon, it's been around for years. I thought, why is it only 20 years? This stuff will last 100 years. And their 20-year is that this is painted, so it's a warranty for 20 years. But the reason everybody has a cutoff on their warranty.
Right.
If it starts to fade slightly, they don't want it to be their problem. But it shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't fade at all.
So color-wise on this, I'm sorry.
Let's go to the finish. Oh, you got it,
No,
okay.
you done?
Yes.
Okay. So color-wise, is this what color the glass is going to be? Because
Well, here's
there's a
the-
building behind you that has windows that are green.
Right. Okay, ours are gonna be bronze. This
So
is
they're
the
gonna
color
be
of the
bronze.
glass. And the aluminum that's in between that holds the window mullions, you see them? They're this color.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So,
But they're just little pieces. They're just mullions, yeah.
okay, so it's gonna be brown. How about chipping, fading?
The glass? The glass is forever.
It's forever.
Nothing gonna
He
happen.
doesn't get that, you look at some older buildings in other cities and I see they're all glass and the windows are kind of,
Because they're using a film, and this is a through product, so it's
Oh, I'm
actually
glad.
film.
That's a good question. Thank you for covering that. This is, the bronze is embedded into the chemical makeup of the glass.
okay.
So it can never disappear. I've been using bronze glass since the
So it can
80s.
never get that foggy.
Right.
I don't know what the.
I know,
what other
oh,
word to
that's
say.
when you mean they lose their seal.
Yeah, they
that's
lose their
different,
seal
right,
and
that's
it's
a whole
all.
different-
So, but this isn't gonna happen.
No, and if it did lose its seal, I mean, they change them out. And the windows are warranted also for at least 20 years.
Okay.
Okay, so, yeah, good question though.
Other questions or comments? I have a few. So I guess following up on the mayor's question about the finish on the aluminum, I guess I'm a bit concerned through about the durability. I mean, today, there's a lot of aluminum products that are basically for life. And the fact that this is a painted surface, I'm just gonna list these questions out,
Okay,
maybe we
great.
can address them. There's a lot of metal products. To Commissioner Buckley's point about the requirement, the provision in our ordinance that limits the amount of aluminum and that type of product on the exterior of the building, I get the fact that you can't do that here.
Right.
Just because of the building, the way the building is structured. So stepping past that though, you want to have a surface that basically lifetime, because there's lots of product out there today that give you that type of durability that goes well beyond 20 years. And if you have a surface that's only guaranteed for 20 years, I'm just going to lay a couple things out there. That surprises me, and it makes me wonder about the overall appearance in terms of fading. So if it's painted, it's going to fade.
Well,
What kind of paint?
Right, this is a very special paint. It's, oh boy. Do you know what that is? It's Kynar. It's Kynar 500. It's a paint that's been around on all aluminum for the last 30 years at least. It's the finest product made. But, you know, with all due respect, what I'd love to do is, because I'm not, you know, an Alucobond salesperson, you know, I mean, I know the product as an architect, but I'd love to have the, you know, the representative come in and explain all that to us. But go ahead.
So, but at the end of the day, it's guaranteed for 20 years. And in the span of things, I mean, with our ordinance, we're looking for long-term durability. That's why we say brick and stone. The durability of that is, you said you did stuff at St. Hugo's.
Right, well, my dad did, yeah. I'm not
Well,
that old.
That's durable.
That's not.
Actually, Northern Trust is not even, most people don't know that that's not stone. But stepping past that, I wasn't around when that got approved. So here, we're looking at this 20-year timeline. Just what I'm looking at personally, I think that looks attractive.
Thank you.
At least this image. I guess I want to dive into that, because 20 years doesn't give me a real warm feeling when I know something can fade, and that's not the type of durability that we're looking for. That's number one. Second thing is the mayor brought up the issue of the windows. So I think about windows like Troy Place. You know what building I'm talking about? At the southwest corner, and there's lots of buildings I could point to, at the southwest corner of Coolidge and Big Beaver. When you go past that building, they have bronze glass, and it's not single pane glass. And the seals on many of those windows now, they're gone, and if you look, you can see the discoloration. And are we going to have that kind of issue with these windows? And then if we put these in, I'd want to see personally some type of assurance that the owner of the building would be responsible for replacing those windows. And then lastly, the awning that's on the east side of the building. So as I look at that, right now, we've got a non-conforming encroachment into the front yard. That'd be a front yard there along Long Meadow. So already that awning is out of variance. And under our ordinance, where you've got something that's out of variance, you're not supposed to increase the non-conforming element. And to me, it's a decorative element, and it's already non-conforming. And as I sit on this planning commission and look at creating a condition where we're setting a precedent, if you will, where we're approving something where it currently doesn't conform with the zoning requirements, and we're increasing the nonconformity, that's personally troubling.
Well, I don't think we had a problem. We thought this might come up. It's a personal taste. I think, and a lot of people do, it's very important for the aesthetics of the building. There's a better rendering of this showing the whole building, but it's not up here. And the canopy's there for practical and aesthetic reasons. But if somebody likes it, we could probably talk to the owner and see if he's willing to eliminate. The only thing I could say, what I like, is that when you say when a building's encroaching into something, I mean, it's only the roof, it's the canopy, it's floating in midair, so it's not like the building got a foundation out encroaching, it's just floating in midair. That's the only thing I can say. Oh, here, can you hand this to him? I'm going to explain that. Just go hand it to the gentleman in the middle. Right. Walter. Okay, so if you could pass that down. This is in Leland, Michigan, this is a school with the exact same material on it. And schools, they try to make them last as long as, they want a long-term building. Excuse the horrible picture, it was right at sunset, so everything turned orange. But there's that product.
So that becomes sort of scary.
Yeah, but that product is on the bottom, and then, by the way, that's a curtain wall system there also. So the curtain wall system is warranted. I haven't checked with them, but I'm sure the client would be willing to sign something that says he'll change out any pieces of glass that became defective. But, this is an excellent, these curtain walls have been around forever. That's one right there in that picture. As I said, excuse the quality
When you
of
say
it.
curtain wall,
All right, that's the entire wall of glass. Okay, that's the entire wall of glass. It's
it's a glass facade.
Yes.
That's trimmed out with painted aluminum.
That's right.
Said another way.
That's okay. I mean, I'm just saying technically it's called a curtain wall.
Yours sounds more eloquent.
Well, that's, I think it's a theory. I mean, it's a big wall, it's a curtain of glass.
So with respect to the awning, it's, to use your word, it's more of a decorative element. And in terms of encroachment.
Well, it's practical too.
Yeah, the building is already into the side yard. It's already encroaching, and so this is an additional encroachment.
No, I understand the whole
Yeah,
philosophy.
okay.
And we're willing to work with you on it.
Well,
No, we'd have to ask
What other
Mr.
ideas
Ayer.
do you have?
Well, the only idea with it, if we were not allowed to have it, we'll just take it off and the building will become a little less interesting, in my opinion.
Are there other solutions that you can use on the glass that would mitigate the sun coming in?
The best thing is just to have inside have blinds, but electric, or blinds that come down. And I always suggest we use dark blinds, so no matter when you're looking at the building, it always looks dark instead of, you never want to put light blinds in because they are moving up and down by various people's offices and they look very unusual, very chaotic. So, no, I would stay with the same glass and it would be the same building except it wouldn't have the canopy, that's all. So I guess we could show you with and without, we could do.
Do you have a picture of it without?
No, but I could have made one.
I guess we can almost sort of,
Visualize.
actually, without it's an attractive looking building.
Well, that's, all right, this is all in the personal taste of everybody, so, but it's, I knew this might be a subject for discussion, so we're open to have the discussion. The owner's here today to make command decisions, so if we have to do that, we will do that.
This photo that you circulated?
Yeah, yes.
So does this turn that color when the sun?
No, oh, no.
I'm just
Well,
asking.
all right,
I'm just
here's the problem with
asking.
that whole picture is the sun was literally horizontal and
I'm
it
just
was
asking.
orange and
You know,
everything turned orange.
Sometimes, you know, surfaces take on.
I didn't even want to show you that, that's why I kept it here, I would have put it in, but the reason is, I mean, I'll go back, I happen to be going up there tomorrow. I'll go back to that school and photograph it in Sutton in the day, and I can also find out how long it's been there. But, you know, I'm just trying to point out that the schools, you know, the people that run the schools certainly want buildings that last a long time and their materials to last a long time, so.
So to the chair's point, the reflection, you know, the sun could come pretty horizontal with that location. Is that gonna reflect? Is that gonna reflect?
No, that doesn't reflect, no, it just absorbs. That was a very orangey sun's day, that was very weird, you know. No, this won't reflect. This is, you can see it's matte finish.
I certainly recognize that there are perhaps differing opinions on here, but for me on the awning, it encroaches too far and it's not necessary, and that's, to me, not something that is,
That's okay.
in my opinion.
Isn't the awning the ZBA's?
Yes,
Decision.
yes, it is, right? The awning is a
Yes, it
ZBA
is.
issue.
It's a ZBA issue.
Yeah.
Well,
It's not
what,
our
what,
determination.
well, with respect to that.
Just a comment.
Commissioner, the awning, as we look at a site plan, we look at the entire site plan. There are certain elements of a plan that we cannot approve. So, for example, if it was a sign and the sign was larger than was permitted by the ordinance, the planning commission has the authority to either approve or deny the request. If we approve it subject to the city commission's approval. If there's an item, I use sign, if it's a setback issue, as we approve it, as we consider it, we consider the overall application, and we may approve it, but it's conditioned on the approval of the ZBA. Here, we're looking at a site plan approval that considers a number of elements, including the design standards ordinance that's within the city's the city code. And so there's a couple different ways we can look at this.
Yeah.
We can look at it as, are we going to approve it because we already have a non-conforming building?
Mark?
And-
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
With all due respect, I think the case law reflects that an owner of property has a right to present their desired design to the ZBA and request a variance. I think what you're referring to would be the planning commission can look at this, note that it would require a variance, and if the desire is to move to approve the site plan, it would be conditioned upon the ZBA actually granting the variance. And then if the variance is not granted, the site plan will be approved already without that addition on the east side of the building.
But with all due respect, we can look at a site plan and decide we are not going to approve the site plan because there are elements of the site plan that are not acceptable to the planning commission.
Okay.
In which case, it does not go to the ZBA.
Mr. Chair, the planning commission applies the zoning ordinances. If there's compliance with the zoning ordinances, you are required to approve it. If the ZBA grants the variance, it complies with the zoning ordinance. The applicant has the right to request their preferred design and seek the variance. They're not guaranteed to get it by any means. And you can express your opinions on it, But as far as a planning commission decision that would remove that applicant's right to go to the ZBA, I think that would be inappropriate.
So with all due respect, if this commission looks at this building and says, there are two considerations here. One is the awning does not comply with the city code. We can look at the encroachment into the side yard setback and say, that violates the city code. And so with this plan as presented, we will not approve it. That's condition one. Condition two is we have a set of design standards that set forth considerations that we give as we review a site plan. So without regard to the ZBA, we can look at a site plan and say, we do not approve the site plan, and the site plan is done. That's how the system works. If we approve it with a condition that needs to be approved by the ZBA, then we approve it conditioned on the ZBA approval. We can deny the site plan approval right now because it does not conform with the city code. We have, I believe, we have the ability to take an application that does not conform to city code and deny the site plan.
If they have put this forth with a recognition that they need zoning board of appeals approval, they have a right to proceed to the ZBA and seek that approval.
With all due respect, if the planning commission does not approve the site plan, then the application is done.
Okay.
Do you not agree with that?
No, I don't. The planning commission reviews site plans for compliance with the ordinance. And so the only thing I've heard thus far is this encroaches too much into the setback. And for that, they're planning to go to the ZBA, as I understand it, for a variance. And so with that understanding, if that's the only issue, then if they get the variance from the ZBA, they're in compliance with the zoning ordinance. And like I said, the case law indicates they have a right to go to the ZBA if they want to propose something.
And this commission has the right to approve or deny a site plan. So,
Based upon compliance with the ordinance.
What are you asking us to approve or disapprove?
I'm just commenting on the fact that there's discussion about denying this because it violates the setback, but they have a right to go to the ZBA to seek a variance.
What are you asking us to approve or
What
disapprove?
I'm suggesting is the appropriate action would be, if the desire is to approve the site plan, approve it with the condition that the ZBA grant the variance. If the ZBA then denies it, the site plan's still approved without the canopy.
That makes sense.
I'm going to step back and I'm going to look at a sign item. I'm going to use an example that came in front of the planning commission.
Mr. Chair, before you get into the sign analogy, the sign analogy is different from a setback analysis. I mean, you even alluded to that. The sign is reviewed by the planning commission, but it's approved by the city commission. That's not the case for like a setback issue.
So our design standards lay out a lot of considerations. That a building is in architectural harmony.
Can you see that?
We don't restrict, we do not restrict architectural design, but this commission has the authority to approve a design that it finds satisfactory under the design standards.
And I don't disagree. Again, I go back, the only discussion I heard the planning commission was it was in violation of the setback.
Well,
If there's a violation of some design standard, yeah, you can make that decision because that's an ordinance requirement,
So-
but you need to make findings.
So, we'll agree to disagree about whether or not, if a building is not within a permitted building site, it's not within it lies outside of the permitted building area.
The footprint.
So if it lies outside of a permitted building area, you're saying we don't have the authority to deny a site plan, deny the plan that we find lies outside of a permitted building pad. So we'll agree to disagree on that, but I guess I'm gonna take it the next step.
What if we, can I speak for a second? What if we did this? I think what our attorney's saying is tie this to a design issue. It sounds like there's some discussion with the owner and the folks up here. If you could make some sort of remedy through that, tie it to a design standard. To be honest with you, I do take the city attorney's point, because if you're arguing about an issue that's before the zoning board of appeals, you're actually making a decision for them. And I think you should probably just stay out of that and tie it to a design standard. And
So-
then it sounds like you guys are working it out, right?
And Dave, honestly,
Okay.
Dave, just so you know,
Yeah.
I really didn't want to, it was simpler actually to talk about the variance rather than,
Yeah.
our architect, Mr. DeRozier, has been around for a long time, and rather than impinge on his view of this awning, and raise
Well, it sounds like
that-
you got it worked out on maybe a design thing. Mr. DeRozier and Matt, can you work this out based on the planning commission doesn't feel like it might be in the best interest of the city as far as the design is concerned?
Well, I'm hoping that they can approve it, that they can voice their personal opinions about it, but they still approve it, and then we go to the ZBA, but your personal opinions went with it. That's all I know.
Well, they're not personal opinions,
Yeah,
they're
they're-
based on,
Right.
Well, the overall
Right.
opinion.
they're not personal.
It sounds like, and maybe the owner can, can have some discussion with it, but maybe there's something we can work out from a design perspective. I understand what the city attorney is saying, and we just want to make sure that we don't step on the ZBA's toes, but it sounds like you guys have something maybe worked out.
So, I agree with what you're saying. Can we just kind of sum this up with it? This is outside of our design because we want the brick and the stone, and that's
Yeah.
really what we look for. So we typically don't go. So as a planning commission, this look, are we okay with it? Don't talk about the non-compliance of the awning, but,
We haven't taken a vote,
I know, but I mean,
Commissioner.
what's your thoughts? That's what I'm trying to get at.
But aren't you, if you're asking, are we okay with the design, that is part of the design, Susan.
So,
So I would say no.
no.
Yeah, I
They're
mean,
saying that they can't do it any other way because of the stilts, and that the way the building currently exists isn't made out of what our ordinance requires to begin with. So,
Let me help everybody out. We're totally willing to discuss, and I said it earlier, about the removal of that if there's anybody that likes it, although I was under the impression the ZBA makes that final decision, but we're willing to.
No, but we're talking about this building. I'd like to know, Commissioner Hassler and Commissioner, what's your thoughts?
Well, I'll go. So, under section 24-237C, the design standards, sub 2, site and building design, subsection A through O, it absolutely supports what Commissioner Hendrickson was talking about, that really shouldn't be talking about compliance with setbacks or not, but if we do disagree with the design and the awning and the supports, then it's a design issue that any one of us can either find attractive and agree to support the submitted plan, or say that it doesn't meet the design standards in that commissioner's opinion and vote against it. But we haven't discussed that yet. A straw vote, I happen to think that it's attractive and I would vote to leave it, but I know others disagree. So I think that in order to push this whole proposal through, that we should probably come to a resolution on that, because it's not, the ZBA is not going to be relevant if it's not there. But if it is there, because enough of us vote in favor of that design, then the ZBA will address whatever variance is necessary. So you've expressed a willingness to remove that feature. Again, my personal appearance, I like it, but.
That's true.
Right, well, but there's others that.
No, there's plenty to do.
Does it provide shade for the windowed areas?
Absolutely,
So
that's
the
the whole
people in
reason
the
I-
offices would be
I was
needing
there, and
it
then
at certain
when the
times
sun
of the
comes
day.
up till 11 o'clock.
It's my opinion, if there's comments made, it would be a violation. You're in front of a body where they have a point of authority over that body, and make comments on representing matters for the general city interest.
Okay,
There's also-
excuse
there's
me,
also
wait a
our
second, excuse
ethical-
me.
Our ethical
Excuse me.
policy also
The
says
chair
that we
is
can't do
speaking.
this.
Excuse me.
But I want,
Excuse me.
I brought this up.
Okay, wait a minute. Can we keep this applicant out of,
Well-
I know we want to address this,
Well,
but these
actually-
two people are in front of us for this. Let's stay focused on that. We'll take the other piece aside, okay?
We've got a
That's what I'm
couple diff-
asking.
Okay, this is what I would like to do. So, first of all, I want to conclude our discussion with the applicant. Then I'm going to open this up to comments from the audience. Now, we have a commissioner in the audience that has comment. Now,
Excuse me, but we have an ethical policy that says members of the city commission cannot attempt to influence the planning commission or the zoning board deliberations. It's in our code of ethics that we sign every year, or every other year.
in Alice,
And
I don't sign it,
It
so.
guides us.
Okay,
as
and
city
that's fair.
commissioners.
That's fair. I guess what I'd like to do is keep everything in its pew here. So, right now, so the way I sort of laid this out at the beginning of the meeting, we do a couple things. First of all, we look to the planning consultant and the engineer for their input. We've completed that phase of it. Now we have the applicant sitting here, and they're giving us their comments. After they've concluded, then I'm going to open this up to any discussion in the audience. Now, if Commissioner Fisher wants to make a comment, I am going to step back and I will look at that. I will take your comment
And our
and,
city attorneys.
right? I'm going to take your comment and then we'll go to the city attorney rather than us getting into 3 different discussions here. And because I don't sign your ethics policy. I don't know
Yes,
what
you
it
do.
says.
You do.
No, I don't sign I sign an ethics policy.
Yes, it's the same one.
Same one.
It's the same one.
Yes.
And it says I can't show up at a city commission meeting?
No, that provision only governs city commissioners.
Okay, so that's my point. I know I sign an ethics policy, but I don't have to address that particular issue. And so what we'll do is, if there's provision about that, then it's not something I'm aware of. And we can read that right now if you have it. But again, I want to finish with these guys.
Let's just move on to this.
Let's just finish with them. So, okay.
Wait, one last thing. While you were talking, we Googled and checked on this paint, okay, this Kynar 500, which you can share with them, but you can read it right off there.
Yeah, but basically, just to clarify, the warranties like anything are 20 years, but it's expected to last a minimum of 40. And it says many buildings that have it since the 1970s are still perfect without any type of fading. So just so you guys are a little more clear on that.
So, and I guess, just to summarize on that issue, there's 2 issues I raised about, raised with respect to the exterior. One was the glass, and getting some assurance from the applicant that in the event this building goes up and that glass is in, that conditioned on, the approval is conditioned on the agreement that they will replace windows that have broken seals, so that the exterior maintains its proper appearance. That's that.
I'm sure.
And then with respect to the painted surface, that we've got some kind of agreement that the surface, because you said it'll fade. So we don't want a building that's got faded out color. So what assurance does the city have that you can provide as with this approval, that granted, you're getting waiver on the design standards, which requires brick and stone? You're asking for that. So if you're going to ask for that, what assurance do you give the city so in 15 years, if the color is faded, that it's going to be refinished? Can you do that?
So the one thing I would say, Walt, is that one is, I think that's totally reasonable, right? Is, you know, hey, it's got a 20-year life. Now, brick and stone is great, but you all know it does the same thing, it fades, right? If you hold a brand new brick up to an old brick, it's faded, and same with stone, right?
It spalls.
It whitens out. So anything's gonna fade over time. It's just how long does it take to fade, and what does the aesthetic look like? If this fades, it doesn't look that great. The manufacturer has a 20-year minimum warranty on this, so I would say what might be reasonable is up to that time, the owner must replace anything or do it, you know, I'm just brainstorming.
Yeah, that's fine.
And after that, I mean, according to what I researched while this conversation was going on, it's a minimum on southern exposure sun that it will not fade for 40 years. Okay, that's what the actual.
That's the paint we're talking about.
That's the paint, right?
product.
But if it does before the warranty, you know, I think there's a way to craft a.
Absolutely.
Right?
So
Because
just,
they don't want it to fade either.
right.
So.
We can look at the exterior of this building right now, and it's faded, and it's, we can look, there's a
Some
couple
things
other.
patina nicely.
Yeah, there's some other buildings in the city that have aluminum roofs on them, where they're peeling, and one of them is not occupied. But that same building, I've watched that building over the past more years than most people. It used to be a Denny's, and the roof had the same problem. And then they painted it black, and now the black, the paint's coming off. And, you know, the city doesn't want to get into, I don't want to speak for the city, but I imagine the city doesn't want to get into an exercise of, you know, the paint on your roof, it's fading, it looks horrible. We just want to make sure that it's maintained.
It's totally reasonable.
So you guys can, we could, as part of our motion, require that you maintain it. Maintain the glass and maintain the surface.
It's part of the design standards too, under section 5 at the end. It's a design standard that they have to provide this information that the material is going to last. And so it's a requirement that they do this. I had a question that's
Yes.
a little off the topic, if I can ask. So I don't recall, I mean, I know we went through the city about mechanical equipment on top. So if you guys, you know, when I reviewed all this stuff, I didn't see anything. Do you have a comment on that? Is that going to stay the same?
Yeah, we are gonna screen those units.
Okay,
Per your ordinance.
okay.
Yeah, follow your ordinance.
And what were you going to screen it with? I mean,
It's the same dark metal
Okay.
here.
okay. So I know that's something.
One of the beauties of this building, Dave, is it's so high.
It's so high, yeah.
You don't have to, you
That's
don't
true.
see it.
The only thing is, if you're in a JFK parking lot, you can see it, kind of.
Okay.
And so
Or maybe,
Well, that's a requirement, that's a good
Northern
point.
Trust.
I just didn't see it in the paperwork. I just wanted to maybe get on the
No,
record.
that,
that
I
they do that.
thought of it today and I was gonna,
So to summarize,
Right.
we talked about the aluminum finish, and you'll give the city assurance that you're gonna maintain the color, and the glass, assurance that if there's broken seals, and if anyone's ever looked at the Troy Place building,
I used to have an office.
pardon me?
I used to have an office in there.
Okay, you'll know, not only does it look bad from inside, it looks bad from outside. So, all right.
The only other technical question I have, Mark, is if the current owner decides to sell in 10 years, I just want to make sure the assurances go with the new owner.
The site plan approval will continue owner to owner until it's brought before the planning commission to revise it.
Okay, just wanted to double check. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to, and I'd like to do this in sort of a reasonable way. So we have a commissioner, and I don't know like I said, I don't know what the rules are.
I do, so.
Oh, okay.
Right, let me just, these are the Code of Ethics from 2012, and unless they haven't changed, these are the same ones. In part, they read that no public official of the city of Bloomfield Hills shall represent his or her personal opinion as that of the city. Members of the city commission shall, except when the commissioner is a member of the public body, limit their participation to the proceedings of such subordinate public bodies, to the communication of requested information, and providing factual information. And there's section A through K. I'm not going to read all this, but it's pretty clear that as a private citizen living in the community, not advancing any opinion as that of the city and or the city commission, it's my view that Commissioner Fisher has the right to exercise her opinions as long as they don't reflect any suggestion that it's coming from the city of Bloomfield Hills.
Also, I think the reference to, unless the person is a member of the public body, if you look to the few words down, it says, shall not influence the deliberations of such public subordinate body, or the first reference to public body is referring to the mayor and myself. We're city commissioners and we're members of the planning commission. Unless we're a member of the planning commission, you cannot make attempts to influence the deliberations of either the zoning board or the planning commission.
Well, with all due respect, I don't know what influence means necessarily. I don't know what.
We'll just have to rely on our city attorney. I don't know what Mark says.
Mr. Chair,
Go on.
in response to that, there's several things here that's an unusual dynamic. One, and I think the most important, is the Open Meetings Act issue, because there are criminal sanctions for an intentional violation of an Open Meetings Act issue. And I do think comments on this topic goes to developing public policy on behalf of the city. You've got 3 members of the commission here, which is a quorum. That's one issue. Another issue regarding a commissioner appearing in front of the planning commission is the city commissioner has the authority to appoint members to the planning commission. There's a case, it's Buckley. I was looking at it earlier today. I can't remember the name and site of it. That specifically addresses a legislature with a legislator with a point of authority appearing in behalf of, in front of a commission where they appoint the members as being improper, undue influence, that sort of thing. And that's case law. That's not in the ethics policy. There's also the ethical standards by statute, which I believe address the same thing as well.
I'll tell you what.
There's several reasons.
So I'll tell you what. Listening to this, over the years, we've been in these meetings, and there have been city commissioners that have expressed views on matters before the commission. This is a different opinion, and there were different, your firm, but your predecessors. I'm going to ask, I heard what you said. I would like to further research this and maybe get a second opinion regarding I look at the ability to speak at a meeting and someone to voice their opinion as an important part of just the democratic process. And so I don't know that a commissioner in an audience is unduly influencing this decision. I'm going to ask Commissioner Fisher at this point to hold her opinion. But I think this raises another issue because at our last meeting, when we were speaking about the moratorium, we had commissioners, but this has happened over the years, and it was never prevented in the past. So I don't know the answer. I'm not an attorney. I believe people should be heard, not use their influence, but if they live in the community and pay taxes, that they should be heard and should not be dialed out of the process by virtue of the fact that they sit on a board. So I'm going to ask Commissioner Fisher, at this point, you know, you're going to have, I'm going to ask you to keep your thoughts to yourself. Not that they're not valued, but at this point. And I guess I'm going to look to the Planning Commission here. I know what I would like to do, but I'm going to look to the commission here because I heard the city attorney's position, which is different than the way we've applied this in the many years I've been on this commission.
I think that people should have a right to be heard. I think if we are unclear on if that person can or cannot be heard, you need to table this until we have a definitive opinion on that.
Mr. Chair, can I make a suggestion? I can have an opinion letter written, delivered to you for next month's meeting. Then you can do whatever you want to do. You don't have to take my recommendation, but let me at least put an opinion letter together so I'm citing the authority appropriately and fully explaining the position that I'm taking. And then you can make the decision.
And so then I would look to the commission. So I think we've heard your opinion. And so if it's the same opinion, how does the commission feel about getting another opinion?
Well,
Or do we wait?
Are we moving
You're
on from Commissioner Fisher's
Well,
opinion
I
and
guess
dealing with the substance of
I'm
this?
going to ask her to withhold her comment.
I think you'd have to have the city commission's approval for the charge to pay a second attorney.
We
Planning
would,
commission
and would
doesn't
have
its
to, I
own
guess
budget.
we would have
You'd
to
have
ask.
to ask the city
Yeah,
commission for.
we would have to
budget
do that.
for it.
Well, this is incongruent with Commissioner Hostler just read, right?
Pardon me?
Yeah.
This is incongruent what Will just read. So I'm at best confused.
So at the end of the day,
To answer the confusion, Mr. Hostler was referring to the ethics standards for the city. I was referring to case law and statute. So that's why there's maybe a different language being used. I do think the end result is the same.
Okay, guys.
For the record, I would like to give the city attorney an opportunity to
Okay.
put together his thoughts,
I appreciate it.
deliver it to you, and let's deal with this then. So
Yep.
Commissioner Fisher's not gonna, she's
happy.
She's happy. Let's move past the discussion of sitting commissioners addressing other boards and deal with the substance of this
Okay,
application.
I agree. That's good counsel.
Could not agree more.
So, all right. So, you guys can, if you'd like to sit down,
It'd be nice.
you're welcome to do that. Is there anyone else in the audience that has comment on this application?
Question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. DeRozier?
I have a question. Oh, sure, I'm sorry. First of all, thank you for your presentation, and I know that you had some challenges. We apologize. My question is real simple. I've had an office right across the street from this building for years. And in full disclosure, my company made an offer on this building. So I have to disclose this, I think. That's not the question. The question is, have you and did the owner ever consider a different color or texture?
We actually looked at a couple, but we thought this was the most pleasant, and that everyone, you know, we voted, like you and our staff and the owner and his staff, but what we liked, and we thought this was the best look. Obviously, in that school, they did the same thing, they used the same product. I was very amazed, I didn't know that, I drove by it one day and said, oh my God. But, yeah, we're willing to look at anything. I mean, you know, if it became the dark, most people would just make that a metal. We thought that this wood is much more interesting to look at, this chestnut look, and more pleasant. You know, that building is the most non-noticed building. I mean, I drove by it my whole life, and we'd like to put some life into it, so it's.
Is it fair to say that anybody with a half a brain, or maybe a quarter of a brain, driving down Long Lake, has never noticed that building because of its insignificance? It's faded into the woodwork. Would you concur with my assessment? Is there any reason that we shouldn't leave sleeping dogs dying?
Well, we're trying to upgrade the city and everything to be in the highest level possible, so that's our goal. So I'm not sure what you mean by which sleeping dogs, the old building?
Possibly.
No.
No,
I mean, it's already
I'm
done.
smiling, I know. And you have a challenge, there's no question. Everybody here understands that.
Sure.
And you'd have to be brain dead if you didn't understand that. And you've really told all of us, shared with all of us, your thought process, and we respect that tremendously. And it's not an easy assignment. I hope that we can find common ground. Thank you.
Well, we do too. Thank you.
So, are there any comments from anyone in the audience on this application? Except you, Commissioner. Okay. So I'm going to bring it back.
I think, I'd like to hear,
No, I was just
Commissioner
going
Morales.
to suggest that we make a motion to approve it as designed minus the awning.
Oh, okay. So is that your motion?
I'll
That's
second.
wildly not said properly, but
Can I offer, do you have any consideration about guarantees on the,
I think that should be included, yes.
guarantees on the surface, the
The
glass?
integrity of the surface that needs to be maintained from
Okay.
owner, and from owner to owner.
Okay, so that's your motion. Is there?
Subject to the zoning board's approval of the
course.
other items.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes.
So I agree with Commissioner Hustler, and usually I'm a rule follower with ordinances, but this building has looked terrible for years. I think this is a fresh approach. I think what you're doing to try and make it look better for the city and get more applicants, I would think, because I wouldn't want to walk into that office building right now every day. So I like it, and I'm with Commissioner Hustler. I like the awning. I think it adds an architectural interest to that building that we haven't had in this city for a very long time. And granted, we have buildings in the city that 50% of the people will walk by and go, who approved that awning? And another 50% of the people will go, I think it's beautiful. So in my opinion, I don't want to have in the motion minus the awning because it's really not, that's not, I'd like to do it as is, but with all the provision, let the zoning board handle the awning. But I would like to do it with all the provisions of the glass.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you go
So-
clean the glass
so-
if it's not clean
But-
when I drive
but
by.
right now, Susan,
Yeah,
there's a motion.
I know.
And so, is there
There's
a,
no second.
no, so the question is there a second on the motion?
Didn't he include all of what? the
No,
mayor
he said minus the,
Oh, you said minus the awning?
Minus the awning.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
So, There's a motion. Is there a second on this motion?
Seconded.
Okay? Yes, sir.
I would suggest, if there's gonna be a modification to the motion, that there be some, comment or justification for the removal of the awning based upon the design criteria, not just on the setback issue. Just provide the basis for that
Yeah,
recommendation.
my basis for is it's number 2, it violates number 2. Yeah, violates number 2 and the design standards approval. I think it's incongruent with what we as a city are trying to accomplish also from an architecture standpoint.
Okay, so there's a motion, a second. Are there any issues? I'm looking to you guys. Remember, we've had this discussion. Ask whether or not there's something else that we're missing here,
I
okay?
mean, there's the screening on top, and there's also I believe we solved the pinch point for the public safety vehicles. I did look into that, and I had our building official look into that and talk with but maybe prior to a permit,
The
that-
screening,
No, the screening for the mechanicals, but also the vehicle access for the public safety and vehicles because we're recommending they remove 2 spaces at the end of the aisle so that they can, and I believe they have enough spaces, so that the fire trucks and that can turn around.
okay, so those 2 conditions, you'll add those to your motion, okay? Okay, so there's a motion, there's a second, the motion being approval of the building without the awning, with the conditions regarding the durability and finish of the glass, the painted surface, the screening of the equipment, the HVAC equipment upstairs on the roof, and the 2 parking spaces. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed?
I'm opposed. I'm opposed.
Okay,
4-3.
so that motion does not pass, okay?
I would make the same motion, but with the awning, so that they get to go before the zoning board on the awning.
Yeah,
Is
that a motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. So we have same motion with the awning. All in favor, and the second being,
Me.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
The ayes have it.
so there you go. All right. Thank you.
Good luck. You guys take care of the parking thing, right? Appreciate it. Yes, sir. Nice meeting you.
Next item is the Planning Commission will consider the request of the property owner at 40705/40705 Woodward Avenue for site plan approval to repurpose one ground sign and to add the name of a building tenant.
Yes, I'll make this one very brief.
And I'm just going to disclose, my brother works out of this, works at this, at his, one of his offices is here, but it's not going to impact with Morgan Stanley. And it's not going to impact my decision. Go ahead.
All right. So right around the corner from the last case, we're here, and there is a sign existing, and I think we have a little elevation view too to show you. It's up on a little berm, and it's surrounded by some landscaping. That's the existing sign right now. And, that's the wrong one. Left over from last time. So this is the existing sign, and again, you can see it's, you can kind of tell from here how the topography kind of falls away from the back and the front too, if you're looking at it from Woodward. This is the existing sign. This is the proposed addition. So the sign would go in height from 28 inches in height to 54 inches in height. The limit is 60. That's the maximum, and so even with the additional sign addition there, it is in compliance. And that shows you the width. Here's the exterior illumination. It's got a ground-mounted light fixture, and that's not proposed to change at all. So that is the presentation. I'll go back to this one, maybe. And happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
Is this the name of the building?
This is a tenant name, and so that part
Right.
is going to City Commission after your meeting.
So, but critically here, the, our rules prohibit, they don't permit the name of a tenant on a building. We can, at this point, we can deny this application.
So this is what you were alluding to, I think, earlier in terms of when the planning commission takes action on a plan. Is it done, or does it have the ability to go on to the next
They can
level?
recommend denial.
I think, is what you were saying. So if you denied this,
Could you explain what you mean by the next level?
well, to go to seek their
That's
appeal,
inappropriate, don't you think?
to seek the appeal or variance request, yes. So I meant to elevate it to the next step, pardon me, for not being accurate or specific enough. So if the planning commission denied this request because it doesn't meet the requirements of the ordinance, the applicant has the ability to take that appeal and appeal the decision because of that finding, which is what they are planning on doing. Similarly, planning commission, if you approved it, just like the last project, if you approved it, it's not really approved because it doesn't meet all, you don't have the ability to make that waiver on your own as the planning commission. It has to go to, in this case, city commission.
So let me read the ordinance. This is what the ordinance says. It says, administrative and permit approvals. It says, Planning Commission. The Planning Commission shall review and approve all signs for any use that is before the Planning Commission for site plan approval under the provisions of section 24-236 based on the requirements of this chapter. So we, the Planning Commission, approve or deny signs. In our last meeting, we got into the thought process that we're making recommendations to the City Commission. The Planning Commission, so I'm going to dovetail back into an application that we had just 1 year ago, which was the signage for the Merrill Lynch building. So in that case, the applicant came to the city, wanted to put a sign in the median that is not permitted under our ordinance. And what we did as a planning commission is we denied that application, and that application was not forwarded to the city commission because it was not approved by the planning commission. This is no different, and we've always handled signage that way. And so there's no reason, I'm just looking back just 1 year ago. We handled that application. It was an up or down vote because that's what the ordinance says.
Well, you know, can I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
What's interesting about this ordinance is that I believe, this is my reading of it, the site plan, the signs have to do the site plan, but you have to comply with section 16. So what's strange about this application that's in front of you is that every sign complies. but not this one sign that they want to put a tenant name on top of the ground sign. That's the only thing in this application before the planning commission that doesn't comply. And then when you look at the, state law requires if it complies, then you have to approve it. So it's sort of this like review to make sure that all these other signs do comply, which is kind of a strange thing to go in front of you. And then the only part that you can't really approve is the part that is going for a variance to the city commission. So I find this whole application somewhat strange, and I don't know, I mean, is this how other communities do this?
With signs, not typically. They typically don't go to the planning commission unless they're part of the site plan, like the project right before
Right.
this one. But when we're reviewing something with pretty clear standards, pretty clear definitions, it either meets it or it doesn't. And so to have someone go to the planning commission for that
So,
is usually not.
So I have to agree with the chair. 16.8 sub B gives the planning commission, we shall review signs pursuant to section 24-236, site
Right.
plans. And then 16-9, non-conforming signs, we shall not approve A1, signs be changed to another type of sign which is not in compliance with this chapter. So to me, we can't approve a proposed sign that is not changing the name of the building,
You're
but
right.
is adding a tenant. So
You're absolutely right.
So they've got their appeal rights to the city commission.
You're right,
Right.
but the strange thing about it to me is that, and it does say it in 16 and the site plan review, is that you're to review all these signs, which you're doing,
Yeah.
but they're all compliant. So if they're all compliant, they have to be approved. It's sort of a strange,
Well, they're compliant until they're not. which
well, they're
is-
compliant currently, and so what you're pretty much saying, okay, we see that they're compliant, so, okay, they're compliant. And if they are compliant, those will have to be approved by you, but the last sign, you can't approve.
but,
It has to go to the city
but
commission.
guys, the caveat to this is, if you view it as any other item that's in, while this goes to city commission, which is different than most variances, we
Yeah.
approve things all the time that are conditioned on the approval of ZBA. Here, this is a little bit different. When we wrote this ordinance, we wrote it, this also, it used to be, before this ordinance, everything went to the city commission. And what the city commission did about 6 or 7 years ago was said, we want to dial ourselves out of the sign approval business. And so the ordinance was amended. So here, the variance goes to the city commission rather than the ZBA. However, we can approve something conditioned on the city commission approval. We can look at this and say, just like we do with any other variance
You can
item.
recommend for
We,
approval, but I don't
we,
think it's approved.
well, I think we can approve it conditioned on,
It's his decision? Okay, you can make it,
The
you
variance
can make a
being
decision,
granted.
yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
yes, sir.
It's interesting.
I wanted to state, I think I misspoke in the prior one, when I said that you're a recommending body for a sign. It's not, you either approve or deny. If you deny, then it goes to the city commission. I was recalling the office building right across the street here that we did a month or two ago, that had a similar issue as this, where it went to the city commission on an appeal.
Right.
But it's a different type
And I
of
didn't say
appeal
any,
from the ZBA.
I knew that was not correct. I didn't say anything.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm trying to correct myself. Thank you.
But here, we have this ordinance, and I have what we've done in the past, and what I wouldn't find unacceptable here, is that we approve it conditioned on, just as we do with all site plans. We approve it, but it's conditioned on the city commission's approval.
Yep.
Or we can deny it, and then, to the best of my knowledge,
I think the ordinance says, like,
The decision, any decision.
then it's
that
gotta
the planning
go
commission
as an
makes
appeal.
Can be
Yeah,
appealed.
it's
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah, so
Yes.
you don't need to condition it upon, if you vote to approve, that's it, it doesn't need to go to the city commission.
Actually, I believe it does have to go to the city commission.
It doesn't comply with the ordinance.
This is a
So
variance.
not.
I
This is a
believe
variance.
I believe it does have to go to the city.
This
commission.
has to,
It
it's a variance.
complies in all of the ways that we talked
They
about
can't have a tenant.
last time with the sign ordinance with respect to the location, the height, the color,
Except
the
you
form.
can't put a tenant name
Right.
on the sign unless it's the name of the building.
Right.
Correct.
And that's why I asked at the beginning of this, is this the name of the building?
Right, and so that particular
Did we ask that question?
statement, what? I'm
Is
sorry.
it the name of the building?
Yes, we did, and they don't want to name the building Morgan Stanley, they want a tenant sign on top of this, which is not allowed.
Well then, okay, can we just cut this straight? We just had this come in front of us, what, 2 months ago with the building on Bloomfield Parkway, and we wouldn't allow them to do it unless they named the building. So, what,
That removed the violation.
Right.
They named the building.
they named the building, exactly.
Right.
If they're not naming the
That's not what
building,
they're doing here.
okay, well then,
Didn't they do it on Harness Dickey? Did they name the building Harness Dickey? Or Harness?
Harness IP.
Harness.
They named the building?
Yeah.
Yes.
yes, they named the building, that's why we allowed it. So I'm,
Now,
this isn't.
just to throw another wrench into that, the effect doesn't change. It still says what it says. It's that term in the ordinance about the building sign versus the tenant sign. So I guess I'm suggesting you think about the effect of that rule on the appearance of this sign in terms of the content of it. And whether that is something that matters. It does in the ordinance, but the effect of it is the same either way.
I don't understand.
I don't
what you
understand.
said.
either.
I don't
I
understand
don't
what you just
understand
said.
at all.
I mean,
Okay, I'm
as-
sorry.
As a fundamental, my opinion, as a fundamental tenet of our, I'm using, that's unintended, our code is, we don't want tenant signs around the city. I mean, we've made it clear. I remember when Cossack put this building up, and God love the man, he got him down just to the address because he wanted different signage, and so that's what he ended up with. And unless he's gonna change the name of the building, I don't wanna set a precedent
No. I
for
don't either.
tenants having signage around the city, so to me, it's pretty easy.
So I think this is an easy one, can we?
Do you have any other questions?
No.
To the chair.
Wait a
Oh,
second.
I'm representing this.
Okay, you'll get your chance in a
Oh,
minute.
okay.
Right.
So, all right, so what we had was discussion here, though, about the approval process, which I think is important.
Yeah.
So where we've landed, just so we're all on the same page, Planning Commission has up or down vote on an approval. And if it's up, I think we can do up, but it's got to be conditioned on the approval of the city commission. We can deny the request, in which case they can appeal to the city commission.
Yes.
That's, I guess, what I think
Yes.
our zoning, our rules permit or require. And the second element of this is, it's not the name of the building.
Correct.
So, does anyone have any more questions for Jill?
Other than that, I'm a little curious of what you're trying to get at earlier about.
Oh, sure.
about
Oh,
what-
I'm sorry.
Well, but.
You know what?
We cut you off.
And I understand, let's hold it for the next part of our conversation that we talk about in a little bit. I don't think it's relevant. It is, but it isn't. I don't want to bog you down
Okay.
Okay.
in this thing. It's not something that is critical to your decision making right now.
Okay.
But I will talk about it. Thank you.
All right, okay. So, is the applicant here? And please let us know who you are.
I'm Mary Ann Dieters. I'm with Metro Signs and Lighting, and we are here on behalf of Morgan Stanley. They are moving into the building shortly. They occupy a good percentage of the building, and the building owner is in support of adding this sign above the existing sign, of which we did for the building owner about 4 years ago. Everything is in compliance with the existing ordinance, except, as you noted, the fact that the name of the building is not Morgan Stanley. But again, the building owner has written a letter which I submitted stating that he does support adding this to the existing sign. In addition, we also are on the agenda for the meeting at 7:30 to be considered because of the fact that it is not the building name. So that's all I have.
Anyone have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that has comment on this application? All right, so I'm going to bring it back to the commission.
I'll submit a motion. I move to deny the application for the reason that although the size and color and the rest of it meets the ordinance, the fact that it doesn't reflect the name of the building and rather it wants to identify simply a tenant is a violation of city ordinances, and so move to deny that basis.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
So does that mean I need to come to this next meeting?
Yeah, you can go to the next meeting if you want to appeal it, right?
Denied.
Does that work?
Yes.
We,
Yes,
Yeah, we
yes,
do.
yeah, you can,
Should you just verbally appeal, I mean, just like announce an appeal, or does he have to write something
yeah, we'll set it up for the city commission,
for tonight?
yeah.
Okay.
We'll
So
yeah.
you're appealing what we just did. So hang around and they'll hear you this evening.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. The next item is the Planning Commission will hear a presentation on the land use study. Jill, this would be your opportunity.
I'll get to that part at the end. Okay. Thank you. So this will be our third presentation, kind of wrapping up what we've been reviewing over the last couple of months regarding the city center area. Tonight, we'll share a couple office market data snapshots, talk about the master plan and our master plan and zoning review, and options and next steps. So what we present tonight will also be presenting to City Commission at the next meeting. So a couple of you will be able to hear this again in an hour and a half. So I'll try to make it more interesting the second time around, I guess.
Oh, come on.
So just, no, so and I'll kind of gloss over this. This is just here again, just to remind everybody about the moratorium, about our scope of work, that we were focused on city center area, but also considering the Woodward corridor as a whole. I meant to remove the multifamily from this map, because we have a different map that just shows the pink and the blue, basically those areas in there, but we'll talk about that. One of the things that we talked about quite a bit at our last meeting was about the survey. And the first time we talked about this in April, we had talked about it with respect to a consumer spending survey and trying to understand a little bit more about the marketplace. It seemed as though we were maybe getting bogged down by that survey and how it would look, what kind of questions, how long we would be able to, if we had to print it and mail it, and then recover all of the responses. We went back and forth. Do we really need all of that information as part of this study. So in the interest of time, we postpone that, but we do think it's worthwhile, and we'll recommend that as a follow-up task. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So generally speaking, what are our office and land use trends that we're finding? We have a lot of data that we've looked at from a lot of different sources. But we've come up with a couple of things that are, I think, the big trends, and these apply generally as well as locally. So walkability is becoming more important for residents as well as workers. There's a lot of reports and surveys done about walkability in terms of its ability to add value to properties. This happens for residents, but also happening for workers as well. Tied in with that is retail plus food and beverage surrounding office is becoming a significant driver of desirability. So if you can think of those two things kind of going hand in hand. And then we think, and this seems really obvious when I was typing it out, I'm like, oh, this kind of makes sense, right? Aging office buildings compete with newer buildings, typically resulting in lower rents. So what I found very interesting, and it's too bad that they left, but maybe they had anyway, our 100 West Long Lake, right? That one was built in 1973. But you can see when our average, we took what we could find. There may be things that we missed, but to the best of our ability, parcels in the C1, O1, and O2, and you can see their average year built. So they're quite old in terms of, I hate to say that because, anyway. What does that mean though? Like today, this really, the 100 West Long Lake was a really interesting case study about older office buildings, what property owners are doing to increase them, the investment that may be needed. Windows, single pane windows, building materials that are losing their flair. Also kind of a fuzzy area. There's really no hard and fast rules for Class A, Class B, Class C. Class A buildings are the best buildings in the marketplace. Class B are still pretty good, but they're a little bit older. Class C are not that great. They tend to have much lower rents. So this is sort of the breakdown, and I just put in Birmingham and Troy just for comparison's sake. One of the things that we found in some of our reading was that in Birmingham and in Troy, and some of the other markets as well, some of the Class C buildings, but particularly in Birmingham, are being targeted for demolition conversion to either a mixed use project or residential projects. Looking at sort of the economic conditions, the employment trends are cooling. Things are growing here in the region and in Oakland County specifically. Outlook is positive, it's stable. Growth is incremental, not fast growth. So that's okay. That's good to think that we're growing, that the economy will stay stable. I think stability is what we're looking for. You know, just kind of noting the auto industry conditions challenge the regional economy, but noting the strength of construction, healthcare, and some service sectors. We do note that 650,000 square feet of office, the Hudson's Detroit, opened last year. It's 92% occupied. That's not adding space. We're not adding more businesses there. We're really shuffling and moving things around, I think, in that area. It doesn't affect you too much here, but it's really worth noting. It's a spectacular new product coming on the market. It's also worth pointing out, you know, we talked a little bit before about COVID-19, the pandemic, and its impact on work and technology is accelerating the trends that were happening right before COVID. You know, we had more technology where people could work remote. COVID, we kind of had to do it. AI is also another change, and I could never in a million years stand up here and tell you what's going to happen with AI, because nobody knows. We do know there's a growing demand for energy infrastructure today. Maybe that problem will resolve itself in a few years. There's a lot of people concerned about job losses, and I think fairly and rightly so, but there's also new kinds of jobs that can be created by AI. So I think when we think about AI and its impact on the workforce, we shouldn't automatically assume that it's going to hurt the workforce, but it's going to definitely change things. So just kind of something worth noting. The city has about 1.4 million square feet of office space. They range in size. About 10% of them are less than 5,000 square feet. Some of them are more. Sales, and these are, snapshots of time and place in April, $192 a square foot for sales. Asking rent ranges from $23 to $26.50, similar to surrounding Bloomfield Township. Vacancy rates falling between 20 and 30%. It is difficult to pinpoint an exact number because many of the data sources consider different boundaries. So they may include Birmingham, Bloomfield. They may include Bloomfield, but that includes Bloomfield Township. It may include some of Birmingham. It may include some of West Bloomfield. But generally speaking, the best data that we can find is that the vacancy rates are between 20 and 30%. Comparing that historically, if you look the last couple of years, you can see a trend, and that's what we're really looking at. Not as much the snapshot of like what's happening today, because I think it was pointed out, we mentioned some numbers last time, or maybe we didn't even have the numbers yet, but there was a point made like, well, this building was just rented or this building was just sold. And so we can't change on a dime like that. We know what we know when we know it, but what we look at are the trends of what's happening. So we can see some slight increases in vacancy, some slight decreases in rates. And then looking at the national rate for office is about 18%. So it's a little bit higher. It's kind of marginal in terms of that. Maybe I'll stop right there just to see if anybody has any questions about that. Again, not really digging too much into heavy data points at this point, but if there was anything that I said that was confusing, let me know.
Makes sense so far.
Okay. So now we kind of switch gears and we say, all right, well, what does the city's master plan say? So as you know, the city's master plan is our guide for the future. It helps us set policies and make land use decisions. It does not have the force of law, that's your zoning ordinance, but the master plan should be in alignment. The master plan gives direction to our zoning standards. So the context, this is all right from your 2009 master plan. And I think these are very, very much still consistent in the way that you still make decisions as a city today. Built out low-density residential community. Preserving character is of the utmost importance to residents and officials alike. Defining characteristics should be preserved and protected where they are established. In general, we talk about single-family residential on an acre or larger lot should be preserved. And then the last point, the city's central core of offices and businesses and City Hall, centered on Woodward Avenue and Long Lake Road, should retain its prominence as the city's business node. So there we get a little direction that we do need to pay attention to this area and make sure that it continues to be thriving. The city center land use description, the context for that. So in the future land use map, we have a map, which I'll show you on the next page, but we also have the text that accompanies the map. And so the setup for that was that the city center is a home to a mixture of office, commercial, and public uses. The city center is a focal point for residents, workers, and passersby. Current uses are predominantly office with some internal, small-scale, accessory commercial uses, a few personal service establishments, a hotel, gas station, and restaurants. Municipal uses and public buildings are present. Consistent with resident survey, and this was a survey that was done prior to 2009, I think it was 7 or 8, to limit commercial and office uses to what was currently there. The intent of the city center, retain its current character of primarily office with some limited supporting commercial to meet the convenience needs of residents and employees within a 1 to 2 mile radius. Larger scale or regional commercial needs are met at numerous locations in nearby communities. Here's a little snapshot of the future land use map focused right on the city center, and those are all of the parcels that are colored in red. So the goals of that master plan is related to the city center. Goal 1D, provide for a vibrant business community confined to the area where it currently exists. And 2C, ensure that site design requirements for signs, landscaping, lighting, parking, building and design, and materials result in high quality building and site development. What is interesting, well, I'll get to what's interesting in a second. Action items called out as related to the city center: upgrading site design standards, parking location, evaluating the need for a parking district, reduce parking requirements, and bury overhead lines. What we note is that while the city center exists on the future land use map, which is this one, that map is a guide for development, and the zoning map, which is down here, provides the rules and regulations for the development. So when you look at the zoning map and you think of, oh, where's the city center? I've outlined it in green to match this, but it doesn't show that on the map. So that's just something to think about. As the years have gone on, we were just talking about the design standards. Those were added in 2015. They was noted that those standards apply to all developments other than single-family residential homes. So I want to just kind of put a pin in that thought for a moment as well. The master plan talks about accessory parking to be located behind buildings, and the ordinance is consistent with those standards. At the time, 2009, the plan suggested the city assess the need for a separate parking district. It notes that, and I'll quote this, part of the parking area behind the offices at the southwest corner of Woodward Avenue and Long Lake Road may be ripe for redevelopment or wetland reclamation, as it is only seldom used. If such redevelopment were to occur, it should be consistent with the existing development in this area and should create a campus-like environment that complements the site, open space, landscaping, and building design features. The city continues to have a separate P1 parking district established in 1983, whose purpose is to accommodate the off-street parking for those non-commercial uses which are not able to provide adequate space within their own district boundaries. This was amended in 2023 to prohibit any additional parcels being zoned to P1. And you can see those are this whole blue area back here. In terms of the parking, again, in 2009, construction of excessive, seldom used parking is expensive and not good for the environment. Current city zoning requirements are outdated, with some requirements for some uses well above the modern standard. And then there were some other recommendations associated with that. There was some slight wording changes, but it doesn't appear that your parking standards have been updated since the master plan was adopted.
The parking was, though.
Parking,
We amended the.
The formulas?
We amended the parking ordinance, so we took and reduced the requirements.
Okay.
That amendment, I think, was done in maybe
2010. There was an amendment in 2010.
Yeah.
It was really hard to keep, as I was researching it.
It was done after the master plan.
Okay.
Because with this, that was one of the requirements.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went through and compared what we had with our neighboring communities.
Yeah.
And actually reduced the requirements.
Yes. So it was very difficult to follow the chain of the amendments that were actually adopted. In 2010, as I looked over several months and meeting packets and the ordinance amending language, I didn't see the table
So that
in there.
that did
But
happen, though.
Well,
We took
good.
it.
Okay. Well, we'll circle
Okay.
back on parking in a moment. So this I also found really interesting. The Cranbrook Educational Communities highlighted a few times, noting its National Historic Landmark designation. The only other mention of historic structures is that of the historic walls along the roadways. I noted the city is rich with historic buildings and structures. Many of those are located in the study area. These buildings and structures add to the character of the city and may benefit from both protection and flexibility in zoning standards, particularly with respect to non-conforming conditions. We have a photo of the property at the corner of Lone Pine and Woodward. There's a good example of that. In the Planning Commission and the City Commission were really good about reviewing the plan every 5 years as required by state law. So you did do a 2014, 2019, and 2024 review, where really the only things that appear to have been changed were the action items. And so here's what your last action items were. Evaluate city and zoning code to improve process, reduce costs, etc. Part of that, promoting tree protection by updating tree requirement or replacement requirements, controlling invasive species and keeping current with state and federal laws, pursue beautification efforts, continue to work on burying those utility lines, which we'll just keep doing forever, ensure high-speed internet is available, and promote public education about ordinances, permitting process, and communication. And really, the point of that was making sure that applicants communicate with the city about planned projects. So, with all that behind us, what are some strategies to consider? Number one, I didn't put on here, but I would say you don't have to do anything. This is not, what I'm about to lay out is not me telling you what I think you should do. They're just options reflected from your master plan and from some of the conditions that exist. So I think a good strategy to consider would be adding the city center to the zoning map to reinforce the intent and the vision of the master plan and the future land use map. That could mean rezoning parcels to a new district called city center, or creating an overlay district, which would allow, not as a rezoning, but it would apply an additional layer of zoning standards over all of the underlying zones that would be consistent with uses, dimensional standards, regardless of whether it was O1, C1, or whatever. There may be some value in consolidating the two office districts into one office district. The intent of the O2 district was for larger office campuses, and the O1 district was intended as transitional district to buffer residential districts. But the locations of those are very similar. And there are O2 parcels abutting residential and O1 parcels that contain larger office buildings. So it might be worth just consolidating those two, as you can see there, in the light pink and the darker pink, to, again, make it maybe easier for people to understand the ordinance and apply it as well. In the city center, given that there's a variety of zoning from parcel to parcel, so you can see it's maybe a little bit harder on the, there we go. So we have C1 is this like reddish color, we have O2, we have O1, we have C1, we have C1, we have O1 over here, we have O2 over here, even though it's like outside it a little bit. So there's a variety of zoning districts there on a parcel by parcel basis. So what's interesting is that you may end up having uses permitted in one building that aren't permitted in the next door building. In the C1 district, medical uses aren't permitted, but they are permitted in the office districts. Personal services are listed as permitted uses, and examples are given in that section. There could be a consideration given to small health and fitness studios as well. Noting that in the O1 district, in the intent statement, it says basic personal services are allowed, but then they're not listed as a permitted use in that district. And that happens also in the O2 district as well. In the O2 district, the city is able to permit additional uses, and this is the terminology of the character of a personal service, administrative service, or limited retail business establishment. But in a similar way, those are not, those don't have any definitions. So now we have a little bit of uncertainty for both an applicant and also the Planning Commission as you do a review of something that comes before you. So these strategies here are, the thought is to make things a little bit more concise, make things clear, make them easy to understand and easy to enforce. P1 district, eliminate as envisioned in 2009. Again, this district back here is behind these buildings, and you can just see it's 15 acres of pavement, essentially. If you were considering creating a new city center zoning district or considering an overlay, that you could potentially have a mix of commercial uses, or you could focus on allowing higher density residential, similar to the Barden Woods condos that are down here. Those are a little bit older in style, and maybe something similar to that scale might be beneficial there. Again, if you think about, let's go back to this little map where it shows all of the different zoning districts in there. Considering that a lot of these parcels are next door to each other, when you look at the schedule of regulations, you could see an opportunity to maybe make things a little bit more consistent. So that doesn't necessarily mean changing each district so that they're all the same. We have like one big district everywhere. But you could do it as a more targeted effort through an overlay in the city center or by creating a city center zoning district. One of the other things that we note is while the table is helpful in providing a snapshot of the standards, there's a lot of footnotes in this table. Maybe there are opportunities to make that more user-friendly. Parking, the standards could be more clear and consistent. The parking standards are still high. Even though most of this area is still largely accessed by the automobile, once people are there, there could be more opportunities for people to walk, making shared parking and lower parking standards more practical. You do have in your zoning ordinance provisions for deferred or land bank parking and shared parking and some deferred parking. There could be opportunities to consider maybe a tiered approach so that we're being more specific in the ordinance, giving maybe different levels of flexibility and a more direct process. Also noting maybe the removal of the wall and berm requirement between adjacent users in the C1, O1, and O2. So again, we have parcels that are next door to each other. They're kind of doing the same thing. They're having parking in a similar fashion in a similar location, but we require them to be a wall or berming in between. Thinking about the way that that prohibits or precludes some shared parking from happening, as well as precluding people from walking between properties. Historic structures, the zoning ordinance does provide relief from dimensional standards for the historic structures, but they are tucked into a section on exceptions. And it might be that they're overlooked by potential users. So maybe elevating that to its own section, giving it a little bit more prominence, and then really promoting that within the city to recognize that people have this ability to have some flexibility with respect to the ordinances because we value these historic structures. So you could have some more guidance on how structures qualify as historic, encourage renovation, retrofitting, and again, providing standards in a clear and organized manner. And this was mentioned with respect to the 100 West Long Lake, but we've heard it from other applicants. There could be some other strategies to permit unique or flexible outdoor spaces, potentially consider allowing rooftop spaces, enhanced garden areas at a pedestrian scale. So maybe this isn't screening from other uses, but landscaping intended for people who are using the site. And then encourage shared or collectively managed parking lots. You have a lot of privately owned parking lots that are all right next to each other. There really could be some mechanism by which those are all managed collectively. We put the I-1 district in here as well. It is in the city center, but there are some observations here. In the I-1 district, you allow places of worship, schools, municipal and civic buildings, and nonprofit clubs. Convalescent homes may be permitted with certain conditions. But there's been discussion about whether convalescent nursing is needed any longer with facilities that you already have and assisted living facilities, based on the need, but also based on some of the noise and traffic that are associated with those. But there could be opportunities to add single-family residential to this, perhaps on smaller lot sizes, so that we have a little bit more of a compact layout that can provide additional opportunities for property owners while still complementing adjacent residential neighborhoods, residential against residential. Additionally, mixing uses on I-1 sites, there may be some sites, and with the big, huge blue blob is Cranbrook, we're really not talking about that, but maybe some of the places of worship or other smaller facilities. If some of them, we know there was at least one that had been up for sale, is mixing the uses anything that would be helpful for them to help keep them in their space, to give them an additional revenue source if they're able to sell excess land and then reinvest that into their needed upgrades. Again, thinking more along the lines of single-family residential in those areas. Other things beyond zoning, streamline sign standards and the process. So that's what we were talking about earlier. Generally speaking, I think the strategies that have been added into this are focused on providing more flexibility, but also providing more clarity and consistency. And so I think the sign standards are a really good place that you can make some improvements with respect to not necessarily changing anything about how tall, how big, what colors, but the process of the definitions and calling a sign a certain type of sign because of what it says, its content, its message, is potentially problematic and may not necessarily be something. I think I was starting to understand where you were going when you were talking about this earlier, with respect to the last project that was up, in terms of, I think it's the visibility of a building, of a company as occupying a whole building, kind of like its headquarters sort of feel, versus, well, they just happen to pay a lot of rent, and so they're the tenant and they're on the sign. But I think from, a streamlined process, the effect is the same. The effect from the passerby is the same, that the size is the same height, it's the same area, it's the same color, it's in the same location. Potentially, that is an opportunity to make some improvements to that ordinance to make it more streamlined and more consistent. Other things, following on recommendations from the master plan on improving walkability, and this is from the master plan, design that promotes non-motorized transportation alternatives like walking and biking in the city center area. So a low approach to that, or a low impact approach, would be to promote sidewalks and paths between parcels. And you can see, it's a little hard to see in this photo, but when you're out there, you can see that there's a footpath that people are making, that they are walking between there themselves. So those are good opportunities. Let's formalize that. On the higher end, developing a comprehensive sidewalk network plan for the city center area. This is for just this area as it exists. So what would some of the next steps be? Could be consider a zoning action plan to prioritize desired changes, if there are any. The 2009 master plan offers guidance for some of the zoning changes that we talked about. There could be opportunities to facilitate one or more roundtable discussions with property owners and businesses to understand their priorities as well. You could consider a master plan update to further guide the refinement of the ordinances and other changes. Again, there's some guidance there, but perhaps it's time. You had a 2012 community survey and you haven't done one since. So that might be a really nice opportunity to broaden the community engagement around that master plan, and also include the property owner roundtables, tapping into community wants and needs. You could do the same survey in the same format, which would allow you to track any changes, if there are any, since 2012. Assess the boundary for the city center on the future land use map. Excuse me. So maybe there are opportunities to refine that boundary. Maybe it gets moved in one direction or another direction, but that would be a good opportunity when you're doing a master plan update to consider what the boundary should be for that area. Refine the vision for the city center aimed at zoning standards that offer clarity and consistency. One of the things that I noted was with your design standards, they apply to all properties that are non-residential. You might want something a little bit more concrete or specific in your city center area. So that could be another opportunity as well. Explore and inventory historic buildings. I know that the Historical Society has a tremendous amount of information that really would be helpful in identifying and exploring what those are, and then refine strategies to ensure their ongoing maintenance, integrity, and use that may be, again, more proactive, like meeting with those property owners to talk about the heritage that they have and maybe the stewardship that they could be thinking about that as their mindset as they plan updates and find new tenants. You could create a city center improvement plan that might include formalizing development plans for pathways, creating standards that visually reinforce the city center area as a place, with lighting fixture types and specifications, landscape standards, and again, this is internal, right in that city center area. And then consider private partnerships to leverage desired improvements in the city center area. There's a number of things. These are just a couple things. Business improvement district, a special assessment district, both of those tap into the private sector for their investment, and then a downtown development authority, which is a little bit more of a quasi agency or approach that is obviously a lot of thought goes into all of those things before you get to that point, but just kind of maybe putting that idea out there that there can be other ways to see some improvements made in those areas. So I think I'll leave it there. If there's any questions about that, again, I'll be doing the same presentation in an hour or so.
Will this plan be on the website? The city's website?
Yes, and there is actually, like, there will be a document that will go with it that'll go in a little bit more detail on
Okay.
some of those things.
Because I
with more
think that's important
pictures and-
to
Yeah.
start.
I think,
just
to your
sending-
point, well,
Yeah.
it's up to this commission. If you guys think you want to put it out there, then.
Well, we're just, well, you tagged a lot of topics, and I think you.
I know, sorry.
And, you know, to my mind, we're addressing really our vision to the master plan, because I think there's gotta be a city center. You start with an overlay, and then start to feed out the interests. I mean, I don't think that I'm not aware of any interest in sidewalks, but I think that's critical. If we're gonna, because just the elephant around our neck. I mean, it's just, that has to be used. Some other communities in the East Coast develop townhouses along there. I mean, there's just plenty of things that are possible, but we're not gonna do it. The businesses have to come in and developers wanna, but they have to know that they can access our zoning to make it happen. Because otherwise, your statistics about the class of our buildings are depressing. And that's gonna only get worse unless we make this a more inviting downtown. So I mean, my view is that we're looking at an update or an amendment to the master plan that,
And I'm trying to wrap my arms, there's a lot of different discussions going on here. I'm going to go back just to the moratorium and focus on what this said we were going to do. And so we're taking a much expanded approach to what's laid out here. And so I want to understand what our scope is, right? We set out originally to review office zoning. I mean, the first moratorium said we are going to review the office zoning description and category and review whether or not we should change that. That's what we gave ourselves 90 days to do. And then we updated it to this document, which expands it to talk about different zoning districts, but still talking about these zoning districts in the regulations. When the master plan was done, and this is 15 years ago, these were the basic principles of the city. And there's a lot of different considerations. We've got, I don't know what residential base pays taxes. I don't know what the percentage of taxes.
It's like 87%.
80, so
That's
close to,
at least the data that I
so
was
close to
looking at.
90% of the taxes that come into the city are paid by residents. And so when this survey was done, and it was actually updated in 2012 or 2013.
Right. But this was based on this, whatever the next one was, this one. These words were based on the one that was before that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was, the survey is in the master plan. It was pretty straightforward. It said, things like, right now our city, it's a quiet residential area. It actually says exactly what was here.
Yeah.
Most of it's office.
Printed it right out of your
Yeah,
master plan.
most of it's office.
Yes.
And we surveyed the residents and asked them, what is it that you want? Do you want something else? Do you want an expanded, more commercialized district? And people had their option of, it was pretty simple.
It was. I
survey.
read it. I thought there was.
But it got these answers, and the resounding feeling was, like it or not, sort of, we're a quiet community, and if we want more action, we're going to go to Birmingham. I mean, that was, and it's,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
I read the whole thing.
opining
I've read
on
it
that, I'm
multiple
not saying that's good or bad.
Right.
I'm just, having been a part of this process.
Yes.
So we looked at it and said, well, 90% of the taxes in the city are paid by people that live here, that reside here. And so we're gonna ask the residents, what is it that you want? Do you want more action in the city center? Are you content with what you have? And on balance, the overwhelming majority of people said, we like quiet, we want a little bit more, we want commercial, a little bit of it, you know. We still have some of the same places that you go for a sandwich or to get your hair cut or the salon or whatever. And that's what the residents
Right.
wanted. Now there's consideration from the moratorium to review zoning, and some of that was centered on it was centered, targeted to the office, because there's provision in the office district. It was targeted to the commercial zoning, because there's provision in the C1 district that says you can have some limited office, a family office, that sort of thing. And so it was targeted to that. So now we're expanding this horizon to a number of different things. And, you know, I just ticked
If I-
off.
Yeah, no, if I could
I
just.
ticked off a couple of things.
Sure.
So and I'm not saying these are good or bad, but they create a much larger project.
They could.
So.
They could, but
and
they
so,
don't have to.
As we put this out there, I think, in my view, you've got to have some parameters. In terms of, if you take institutional uses and allow residential development, I can tell you, as someone that does that, if you take the institutional zoning rules and try to allow housing, the standards, you know, like the setbacks, the requirement for what you can build, those, you're looking at a much broader group of changes that would be a much larger project than what's in the moratorium. So.
Right, we're not, and
So, but those, so are we leaning in that direction, or are we continuing to focus?
we are not leaning anywhere. We are presenting you with
No, I
our
get it.
findings and some potential, and some things that we think are maybe that could be brought into better alignment, given what the context of your master plan has been and the character of the community. And none of this, at this point, that we found would say you have to build a downtown and you have to compete with Birmingham and you have to have action places and movie theater. Like, it's maybe look at adding a few more uses, but primarily, can we make the process more clear and concise and predictable for the developers and the property owners? That's one of the bigger things. And then are there some smaller things that we can do to enhance the properties, commensurate with what the residents expect in terms of having high quality office at this intersection? So that's the scope this is it. The next steps are going to be up to the city commission in terms of its direction and what city commission feels is appropriate for the next step. City commission very well may say, thank you, hopefully, and we're good, thanks. We'll talk to you next month as we do another review, which is fine. City commission may say, you know what, we'd like to know a little bit more about this, or we want to know a little bit more about that strategy. And we'll just kind of see where that goes. But really, this is just some of our findings and knowing the community as we have for so many years. I thought it was really cool looking up in the Historical Society's maps. Boy, we could really do some organization at their website. I love all that stuff that's in there. But there was a reference to the Bloomfield City Center, or the Bloomfield Center, from like the 1800s. It was on the map. So it's kind of like it's been this little core, if you will. Not a hamlet, not a village, not a downtown. It's a core of the community, a recognizable core with this building serving as a tremendous resource for that, as well as the offices to some of the limited retail stuff. So I think that's the presence of that is there, and I think it was reinforced really nicely in the 2009 master plan, actually. So.
I'd like to hear some of the commissioners' comments, please.
I have not.
Your thoughts on the study at all? I mean,
Sorry?
enlightening, nothing new?
I think it's interesting. I think that we have to decide as residents what it is that we're looking to have, right? And I guess I'm unclear as to what is being asked of us as a planning commission here. Other than input that, is our input mean anything more than any other resident in the city? Or are we gonna make a decision on something, or are we just looking for input?
I don't think it's I don't know personally. I mean, I think that, to me, listening to all of this is, it just things like this naturally evolve into a bigger project.
Sure.
That's just what happens. So if anybody thought, yeah, we're gonna have a list of recommendations and we're all gonna approve them, let's go. That's not what's gonna happen here. It's gonna be a longer process. I think
it's a good idea to get the residents involved.
Yes.
In sort of a comprehensive survey, but again, when I say comprehensive survey, I mean, the mind can only absorb what the rear end can endure, right?
Yeah.
So it should be concise, it should be thoughtful, and pointed, if you will. Sometimes I think surveys that are 10 questions get way more participation and good answers than those that have 100 questions, for example.
100%.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's not really a decision. It's getting the input from everybody here, because it is ultimately, and I mean.
As a selfish person, I'd like to have a place where I could go buy milk and, you know, maybe some prepared foods that I didn't have to drive to Plum Market for, or, you know, but again.
No, that's, in Commissioner Hassler, you said it so well. I mean, you really picked out some of those points, like that P1 district. We can definitely do something with that. So if you're asking me, I'm looking at, there's our areas that we definitely have some opportunity on. And the P1 area is one of them. Maybe the zoning, as Commissioner Hassler said, letting developers and business owners know that we're open to ideas into zoning, instead of, no, we're just set where we are and we're not going to change, and bringing us new opportunities. I think that's really important out of the survey. I agree with Tom Balamas. I think the survey has to be done. I think it needs to be with a professional, like, you know, a professional survey team. And I'm not necessarily saying we have to ask the same questions that we did back in 2012. It's a good idea to compare the two, but I think we all know nobody wants this to be a Birmingham, nor do we want to be a Birmingham, and we're not going to fund it. So I think you gave us some really good opportunities to look at, especially when you talk about the rezoning of some of the offices and making it clear. Maybe we're not, so there's an opportunity to do it. And kind of, you know, the whole, when you say walking past, everybody gets scared and says there's sidewalks, and then where do you begin? But you really pointed out to us some of the areas that could be walking past between offices, and they are just truly past. And we could work with the business owners. So yeah, I think this is more work to be done, and it's going to cause more questions and everything. But I think that we can work with you, and I think actually the next steps in my mind is like what Tom said, is we need to take and do a very good survey with our residents.
Yeah, we agree with that. I think the other thing with the sidewalks is thinking about improved pedestrian crossings over Woodward and Long Lake roads. There really isn't.
Well, the MDOT has promised us, when we put the bus stops in, MDOT allocated money for crosswalks across Long Lake and Woodward where the bus stops are located. They haven't, you know, I go to those mayors on Woodward meetings that they have, and I ask them occasionally, and they, you know, they're not focusing on it. I don't think we have enough activity at our bus stops to even warrant the cost, and I think they know that. I think that's why they're dragging their feet. But,
Possibly.
but they, you know,
Like-
they did commit to us that
Yeah.
they would put a sidewalk from each bus stop location to the street and then across the median.
I'm glad you brought that up, because it is something that we've observed, and of course, once you see something, you see it all the time. Every time I drive by now, I'm like, oh yeah, there's people standing out there at the bus stop. How
Not
did they
many,
get there?
not many.
They walked through the grass, they walked through the wood chips, they walked over the landscape berm. So there's that. I'm sure, I'm not gonna put Leah on the spot, but certainly HRC's work with MDOT and working with roads and pedestrian crossings and things like that, I think would be really a great opportunity to, you know, we did it as we walked from one side of Woodward to the other side, and it was not, if you haven't done it, be careful, but do it, because it's a whole different experience to be out walking than it is if you're driving by in your car. And if you put yourself in the place of people who work there.
I would, one thing I messed up, but I agree with you on, is we should elevate the historical sites in the zoning board. That has to be done, because I'm too a historical buff. I learned any piece of history on this city and I go crazy. Commissioner Arnold, your thoughts?
Question for the commission. How do you rank the questions that apparently were proposed in the series of questions that would go to interested parties, like residents?
I think, is that you're talking
Yeah.
about the survey from last time? I think,
I wasn't here.
okay.
I'm sorry.
I wasn't either.
Okay. I guess-
So, Jill, you want to answer that?
Yes, we had intended to do a consumer spending survey with this study, but we were concerned about the way that the questions were kind of, the typical questions that we typically ask. Maybe there was a bigger sensitivity to people saying how much they spend on things or how much what their household income is. So we just gleaned what we could glean from census data and from other market research and information. So we didn't have to do that with this project, but certainly moving forward, getting more engagement from the community, updated engagement is a really good idea. You could start with the 2012 survey and then see what do we not need to ask? Do we need to ask this question in a different way because now it's so many years later? Certainly, to your point, having, I think it was Cobalt Community Research that did the last one. We work with them also. So having them come in and help you with how to survey as well, like the tools, maybe it's mailing, but maybe it's also, maybe there's other things that they have. And they do have other kinds of research that they can bring to the table as well, so.
Yeah, they've been around forever.
Yeah.
Commissioner Buckley?
Yeah, well, I kind of agree with our chairman on his analysis. I think, you know, that was an old survey that was done, but I think I participated in it, I remember, and I think it was pretty clear. They didn't want a lot of development at that time. They didn't want sidewalks and safety paths. They wanted to keep things pretty much quiet. And I don't know if that has changed, but I think those are valid questions to ask people now. We haven't gotten any bigger, so I don't know that we can add anything more. And the traffic on Woodward has gotten much heavier.
Right.
And we know we have traffic problems at other locations over at Lasser, between Lasser and Long Lake and Hidden Grove. We know we have a lot of traffic problems. Thinking about, you know, adding a lot of retail and restaurants that we don't currently have now, I think would cause more traffic, more problems, and
Yeah,
we're not,
I would
you know,
agree
we don't
with
have
you.
any more space
Right,
in the
I would
city.
agree with you,
We're
and
small.
Right.
So I think we have to be sort of measured about
Right.
what we think about and what we think we want and need. But I do think that a survey similar to the questions that were asked in the past would be helpful, because I
think so,
thought they were
too.
very good questions that were asked back
Yeah.
then.
I agree. I think so too. I do think, though, even with the survey results as they were, the plan still says what the plan says, and it's based on all of that. So it still talks about having a vibrant city center. It still talks about non-motorized improvements to help people get around in that area. It's still constrained to the city center, but even with the feedback that was received, there was enough interest there that it all has become part of the plan. We did have some of the findings for, like the market for additional retail, it's not that much, really. So there wouldn't be a significant, I didn't put it in the slideshow because I was getting a little bit full of the content for tonight. But we'll put that into the report.
Yeah.
It isn't that much, so it's not, it shouldn't, anything that I've presented shouldn't confuse that we're saying you need to become Birmingham, because that's definitely not what this is
But I mean, I
finding.
do think we need to look at allowing more types of office use.
Right.
Like medical. I think medical is something people are going to have to go into, doctor's offices. And they're putting that large hospital over in Troy, the U of M hospital. I think there will probably be a need for more doctor's offices in the area. And to the extent we can add that type of use, I think it would be helpful to owners of property.
Agreed.
So,
And the city's population, your median age is 53. As we look at the cohorts, though, there's a significant number of households with people over 65 and beyond that, you know, I know we talked a little bit about, you know, where people go for medical services, but certainly people will go where they go because they're comfortable, but there may be some services that they go to because they're really convenient. Maybe as people are not driving as much, they want to stick closer to home. So there's definitely, I think, it's worth considering those uses too. Yeah.
With respect to the survey, I'm going to echo some of the comments I heard, which
And we're not
is-
doing the survey right now. So
Pardon me?
that'll be a next step at the
So
direction of city commission.
What
So
happened to the survey that got circulated?
we just found other ways to get the information.
Oh, so that's off the
We're
table?
not doing this.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure where that's
Yeah. I'm sorry, maybe I said it too quickly at the beginning. But due to the time that we had, we decided we could find this information
Gotcha.
elsewhere.
Okay.
And so points to some of the dollars and usable or space that could be used for retail and restaurants and things. That'll be part of the report.
As you look at it, even though it was old, the questions that were raised in the 2009 survey, they were pointed and clear. We got, actually, even though they were pointed and clear, the reply rate was still, I don't know, maybe 40%. It wasn't as high as you would have expected.
That's higher than I would expect.
But-
40% is a lot. It's a good return, really.
But they were clear.
Yeah.
It was, do you like a downtown area? Do you like our existing downtown area as low intensity, quiet, or do you want more activity? And it was clear. It gave people sort of a
The range of,
definitive,
like, I
I want
strongly
more
agree,
or
I
I
agree.
want less.
Yeah, there were levels though, so it was I agree or I
Yeah, there
strongly.
were actually 5 or 6,
Yeah.
you know, agree, disagree.
I think it's a
And-
good place
and
to
so
start if
if-
the city
if-
commission wants to do that.
If you have
Thanks.
90% of the people that are paying taxes, we need to keep our residents happy and keep those surveyed. When we did the 2012 or 13 survey, when Cobalt did it, lots of questions. And I think it got confusing for a lot of people. Just as you move down this path, I'm not sure what your timetable is. To your point, Mayor, about like the P1 parking, we can look at, outside of this, really, you can look at pockets and say, this is something we could do here that go beyond having to rework a master plan. So that parking that's in the back right now, that's controlled by, it's there because of parking requirements that run with those buildings. And under our ordinance, you can't take away parking spaces. Now, you've got a lot of resident concerns because you got people living back there, and so if you're gonna put multiple family in their backyard, that would be a consideration. And I don't even know how you'd access it. I mean, there's a lot of concerns, but you can look at pockets. But when it comes to revisiting the master plan, then you get into the Planning Enabling Act that says the Planning Commission has to drive all of that. I think that's by state statute.
You're correct that the planning commission is responsible for doing the master plan, but the city commission may ask the planning commission
Right,
to do
yeah.
that
So,
and give you that direction. And again, that's why I put the next steps kind of in smaller bite-sized pieces. If you thought that we would just do a zoning action plan, that then we would consider, what are those things? We've got the whole menu of things. There might be some low-hanging fruit, things that we can do rather quickly, rather easily, based on the guiding documents that we already have. There may be some things that are going to require a little bit more discussion, a little bit more input. So we can prioritize those too, and then come up with a plan, like, okay, next year we're going to do, or this year we're going to do these 2 amendments, and then next year we've got 3 more planned, and then we'll kind of revisit and see where we're at. So we could do that. I think certainly a little bit more engagement around those would be great. But you don't have to update the master plan. But as I said, there's some opportunities in there that you might
There's
want to
pocketed
provide
things,
more.
yeah.
You don't need to do the whole thing either. You can say, you know what, there's a few things. We really want to get more into historic structures. We want to get focused on the city center, just to look at that boundary. It might stay the same, but maybe it,
we've been trying to bury utility lines
I was
for
going to say
15
that.
years.
I know.
The guy
and-
over there keeps on saying, no, we're not gonna do,
It's
but no.
so
There-
expensive.
I guess my point
Yeah.
is, there's sort of like your wish list, and then you realize, you know,
It's tough.
it's a
Everybody wants
big
to bury
reach
buildings.
to get there because of cost and a lot of other considerations.
Right.
So, right now, we started out with this targeted approach, and now we've got a really broad plate. And
Well,
I
and
guess the Tom
It's
said,
up to the city
what do
commission
you want
to
us
figure
to
out
do?
how or what they want to direct resources to at the next step. So, yeah.
Any more?
Let me just, so I totally agree with the ultimate decision is going to be driven by the residents, by the taxpayers. And so the survey is critically important. But I think it's a mistake to necessarily presume that the conclusions that we got from the last survey are going to be the same now. The reality, not to pick a particular use, but back then, there was another restaurant. We don't have that restaurant anymore. And the owner of the property is proposing an office. Well, do we need another office? We've got, joins 200,000 empty square feet of office building. So I think the survey questions have to be carefully considered to address, keeping a bedroom community intact, which is what we all want, but the kinds of market or small restaurant that would be, I think, consistent with that. And so it's the flexibility in whatever overlay would align with all these interests.
We should be making decisions based on the 90% of the people that live here, not the 10% of the people
I
that work
agree.
here.
I agree with that.
I'm just going to suggest one small thought, that agreeing with that, for sure, but also keeping in mind that the appearance of those buildings definitely still has an impact on the residential neighborhoods and their property values. And a rundown, and not that it's rundown, but should it get to be less than desirable, that has an impact on the people who live here as well. So just something to keep in mind is weaving that thought in to bigger plans.
Consider, the application that we just listened to was someone from an office building. They just bought that office building, and they're sinking a lot of money into renovating it.
Exactly.
Now, Alice, you said, geez, we should consider more medical, or at least consider that. The differentiation in medical and regular office is parking. So that's the single criteria for the most part, depending on the size of the building, because if it's an O2 district and it's a larger building, then there's a number that you use that sort of blankets it. But, so those are considerations. And I always say, be careful what you wish for, because there was just an article in Cranes last week that in Birmingham, they're really upset because they're putting a Dollar General store in
We have ordinance language.
in what was a CVS. And so we have a commercial zoning district, and so, under state law, once you have zoning, you can't say, I don't like that, you know.
Actually, you can't. There are a couple
Well,
of things
you
that
know,
you
I-
can do with the zoning ordinance
Yeah.
to shape the kind of retail experience.
But
There is.
generally speaking, you know.
I wouldn't suggest that you don't want to add any more retail uses because you're afraid they're going to be a Dollar General. There are things that we can.
I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah.
I'm just saying with zoning, state statute generally says, you know, you've got a guaranteed use based on the criteria that are laid out in your zoning. That's the way it works. And you can put tiers, you can put different levels in, but generally speaking, there's a guaranteed use based on your zoning, and you can't say, you know, we can actually say things like, we don't like the color of your building. We actually, with our design standards, we can say that. But, so, that's my last comment about that. So, anyways, what would you, I guess, to Tom's point, what would you, or I'm not gonna say Tom's point, Mayor, what would you like us to do?
I think right now, what I think the next steps would be, unless you've got further research to do, but maybe that, in my mind, this whole doing a survey of the residents is something you guys need more of, that we need more of. We need input from the residents. So perhaps my suggestion would be that we ask the city commission to allocate money to doing a survey, like with Cobalt. Say that's one of the things I would say, is that we need that survey. It needs to be professional, and we need the city commission to approve the money in order to do the survey. But I think in order to do that, first, Dave and Amy, we're probably going to need to find out what it's going to cost, what it's going to include, you know, all of that, because the city commission can't just, those are the questions we're going to ask, and the city commission will.
So, in that regard then, so in terms of having a goal, so originally our goal was review the commercial zoning. Now, the goal is, what's laid out here is more zoning related. This is a broader brush, so we're expanding the goal then.
Yeah, but I
Is
think
that, just so we understand?
I'm not the only one on this commission. I mean,
Yeah,
people
well,
can say what they, I just think the two things that I'm hearing from everybody's comment is we need the information from the residents, which I think is very important. And the second thing is we probably need to look at the master plan and not change it, to Jill's point, but to elevate some things in that master plan and make it more, you know, more important, or saying the right words with it. And I think that's something that lands with the commission, with the planning commission here. But does the city commission have to tell the planning commission to do that? So like later today, when the city commission's talking, and let's say, again, I'm only one voice, let's say the city commission says, yeah, we should probably have the planning commission look at the master plan. Is that how we would, the procedure to do it? Okay.
can we, so I guess, I know we want to conclude this, but should we, we've got two commissioners in the audience. Do we ask their opinion now, or we don't?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we should wait until we
Okay.
have the full commission in front of
All right.
us tonight.
Yes? Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
all right,
yep.
all right.
They can tell me
So-
I'm crazy later on. I don't care.
Pardon me?
They can tell me I'm crazy later on.
Okay, all right. So I guess,
I have a question for Jill.
Yes, sir.
Jill, are you aware that within a mile of where you're standing is the largest single property up for sale in the city of Bloomfield Hills,
Yes,
acreage-wise?
yes.
And are you aware that it's zoned something rather interesting, institutional?
Mm-hmm.
Are you aware that it's a subject of much controversy?
Well, controversy, sure.
I'm sorry?
Yes, yes,
Is the answer yes?
yes.
Does that surprise you?
Which part? The controversy? No.
I just thought I'd ask.
No, but I think it's a really good question when we think about the institutional district and what's permitted and what people might be wanting to do with property with respect to considering, I think someone mentioned it earlier, maybe it was Commissioner Hostler or Mr. Commissioner Balamas, I can't remember, about filling up the spaces that we already have before we have new spaces created. So that might be something to consider as we think about that.
Or let me rephrase my question. If you were fortunate enough to be on the Board of Governors at the Cranbrook Educational Institutions, would you be interested in that property and how it may be zoned
Oh, gosh.
or rezoned?
I couldn't even begin to,
I'm sorry?
I couldn't even begin to speak for them. No.
You couldn't, I'm
I
sorry.
couldn't speak for them, no.
No, I'm asking
If
if you were,
hypothetically,
hypothetically.
sure. Sure.
And what if you were a budding property owner? You lived in the city of Bloomfield Hills, you lived abutting that property, and there are people in the city that live abutting that property. Would you be interested?
Well, now that's a good question about people surrounding, because in the city, everything on the corridor for the not everything, but there was a lot of things on the corridor that also abut residential. And so maybe that specific property you're asking about, but I think it's worth thinking about all of the other properties that face the same consideration for the abutting residential properties. We've talked about it here with a bunch of different applications, and how we make sure that there's a good transition, that there's enough screening, that we're careful about noise and traffic. So I think thinking about what kind of impacts a use might have, and then thinking about how we build regulations to mitigate that or offset those impacts, then it doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't matter what the use is, but do you know what I'm saying? Like, we think about what we are concerned about, and then we regulate for that. We don't just go, well, we can't have that use. So we could have that use if we take care of traffic and noise and landscaping and appearance.
As we move down this path, what we need to consider, in my view, is we're not just talking, when you're talking about, I wrote notes here and don't want to, I guess, bore everyone with them, but once you start changing zoning districts, you said, well, maybe we should make 01 and 02, we should collapse them. So the difference is the intensity and the size of those buildings. So once you start doing that, you've got neighboring properties that are not in the city center, that are down at Lone Pine in Woodward. So all the residents that live next to those buildings, once you start changing zoning, and then you've got the grandfathered effect of changing zoning where they were approved under one design, and now you're changing the criteria.
It's very
So
important.
that's what I'm trying to, I guess, maybe broadly say. We've changed sort of a finite goal into, we expanded it, and now we're bringing all these other elements into it. And I know the city commission wants to tackle the zoning issues, and I get that. But if it turns into too much of a shotgun effect, it's going to be difficult to maybe capture. I mean, I heard what everyone said, and everyone's making good points. I mean, I heard Will say, this would be good, and Tom said this would be good. But once you start, fiddling with those things, that institutional property, right now, I'm not sure where it all stands. I mean, there are other options. You could rezone something. I mean, you can change.
Well, though, to be fair, and
Yes.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but our first line of answers to somebody who's interested in a rezoning is that the city is very committed to its master plan and its future land use map. So a rezoning is very difficult.
No, I'm saying,
So-
so the city could look at that property.
Yes.
The city can use its own master plan right now, in the underlying basis, foundation, to say, right now, under the institutional use, under single-family use, you can put a church, you can put a religious institution on single-family property. Right now, there's a church there.
Right.
So, and there's an underlying single-family plat for that property. If it were zoned single-family, it doesn't permit, you said, you know, maybe the convalescent use isn't even necessary for our.
Based on the feedback that we've heard
Right.
over time, that's not
So-
the most desirable use.
So
for
there's
property.
options for those things.
Right, and I think thinking about, does single-family residential right against Woodward make sense? Or is it worth thinking about something that's a little bit smaller lots, a little bit closer together? Maybe they're attached, maybe they're not attached, but there's certainly precedent for that along the corridor for other types of developments that you do
And I
have.
get that.
And we don't have to get all,
Right.
And we're all talking
But yeah.
hypothetical.
Yeah,
hypothetically,
This is
Yeah.
hypothetical.
but anyway, so
all right.
yes, I had another thought.
So nothing more for us to do, just listen and take
Do we
direction.
need a motion or anything, or do we just relay this to the commission? Okay.
No, no,
Okay. All right.
thank you.
Well, Jill and team, I just want to say thank you for, you know, everybody wants to get their input. Just thank you for your time and what you've presented to
Thanks.
us. And I think the city commission's probably going to want copies of it.
We're gonna, like I said, there will be a more complete document that we just weren't able to get to you today. So it'll be coming, but we did want to make sure you had enough. As we said, we would have something for you at this meeting, so this is
You had
a
a motion.
pretty good summary of everything that we've got.
That's fine. And I'm sorry, Commissioner Hassler, do you want to do you still want, does everybody agree to make the recommendation that you want this somehow, some way put on the website?
Oh, yeah, I think it's,
Okay.
I would think that that's something that is very important to the public
I
discourse.
just wanted to double check that, yeah. Thank you, Jill, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it's 7:05, and we've got, you guys have another meeting, so should
Yeah,
we,
we are.
so did we want to make a motion or so? What are we going to do with
Can we
this?
push this off, because I know that Amy wanted to do a presentation, but I don't think anybody wants to sit here.
No, I say we table this issue till next month.
Well, but
That's
are
my
we gonna make a
recommendation.
motion for a
We're not a full
Well,
commission.
so
committee.
Right.
this is
Everybody's
the,
here.
this is the,
Right. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the Planning Commission will hear a presentation and discuss the landscape open space ordinance regulation.
yeah, and I earlier today, I communicated with this city manager and city attorney and chair, and personally, I'm a little in the weeds on the details of what's being proposed with the modification of the landscape open space ordinance, and I would frankly like to have a deeper understanding of that, and to my opinion, that requires an advisory committee. And I understand that there's some opinions in the city about, at this point, are they permitted, are they not permitted? And in my opinion, according to state law, which I've shared with the city attorney and the city manager, they're absolutely allowed under the state law, and in fact, it's up to the discretion of the chair of this planning commission to determine whether or not one's required. And so I would ask, and if that's by way of motion, this is a motion, that the chair convene an advisory committee or a subcommittee, whatever you want to call it, that addresses the topics that are relevant to the ultimate determination of what we're doing with the Landscape Open Space Act, and would ask that that be done before we have a vote on modifying the ordinance.
I would like to second that motion.
I think the attorney has a
He's got a comment.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to mention, I did review the memo.
And I'm sorry for dropping it on you, just
No, that's no problem, that's no problem.
late in the day.
My concern with the committee is not necessarily whether the planning commission is authorized to establish a committee. I think clearly you are. It's just in reviewing your bylaws and reflecting on what has happened apparently in past committee meetings, it seems like the entire premise of establishing a committee is to prepare things for the full planning commission, which requires decision-making. And you cannot make decisions in the committee process. What I would suggest, if you want to take a deeper dive into this, rather than holding a committee meeting, have a special meeting of the planning commission and devote the entire meeting to discussing proposed amendments to the ordinance. That way, if you're narrowing items down and making even preliminary decisions, shaping this for future planning action, you're not running afoul of the committee bylaws that prohibit such decision-making at the committee level.
Let me offer this. I've sat through 17 years worth of committee meetings, or whatever we're going to call these. If you look at our master plan, on the acknowledgements page of our master plan, it references a committee. The city has relied on the use of a smaller group of people to collect information and sift through it. We've never made decisions. Your predecessor, Bill Hampton, was a strong proponent of the committee process. And what our rules say is, the purpose of committee meetings shall be to prepare items for presentation to the full membership of the Planning Commission. The committee shall be advisory bodies only and shall in no instance take any action on an item. And so, as we've gone through over the years, our committees work to collect information, which presenting and then sifting through during a planning commission meeting would be something that would take much more time than would ever have patience on these committees. And it's not really fruitful or productive for these committee issues to be addressed during a full planning commission meeting. There's information that needs to be collected, and as chair, I believe an issue, a matter like open space, where we're talking about land use that affects the residents of this city, I think we need to vet that and collect the information so that it's done with enough time to make sure that we've collected that information.
And I guess that.
And but what you said is what I've heard about past meetings. Frankly, I don't know what you have heard. Actually, I heard some comments made at past city commission meetings about people that were not present at meetings that were present at meetings. At the end of the day, what we do is totally transparent. Anyone can come to a planning commission subcommittee or a committee meeting. This dates back 15 years. One of the most, pardon me, I'm speaking. Excuse me.
Yes, you are.
To make a comment, I've heard this is what happens at meetings. Let me share with you, one of the most contentious ordinances that we passed in the city was the tree ordinance. Back in 2012, there was lots of controversy. We had committee meetings, and people were invited into those meetings, and we produced a document, and that was in 2012. So that was 12 years ago. And we followed that pattern. So I'm not sure what you heard, but we try to be open and transparent and want to do things the right way. And there's a motion, and
Mr. Chair, can I?
Yes, sir.
Just redirect your comments back to what I said. Because the concern is that there's decisions being made in the committees. That's the concern. It's got nothing to do with how many years in the past this has been going on, or the authority of the planning commission to have committees. You do, I understand that. My question is, you refer to this as vetting the ordinance. What does that mean? Are you starting to narrow things down?
we're collecting, guys, we're collecting information. And let me share with everyone. If you go to Bloomfield Township, they have committee meetings. I've talked with them. They do it, and in fact, if they don't have a quorum, they don't even public notice them. That was as of a year ago, and I'm not sure if they've changed. This was after the act, though. So I want to, wait a second, I don't want to go, okay, I want to make this, there's a motion in a second.
He has a personal issue.
I want to take a vote on this before Tom has to go. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. Motion passes.
But I want to say one thing, it has to be done within 6 months. This cannot go on 2 years like some of these subcommittee meetings have. And you know as well as I do, they have.
I just want to mention that I think there has to be a little more study on this issue because, in my opinion, what I see is there's a lot of decision making. There's ordinance shaping. When we have applications, we have people come into the application process. When they leave these committees, their applications are different. That's never in front of the full planning commission. I guess I'm a troublemaker here, and I'm sorry, but my responsibility for the city in my position is to follow the law and make sure that everybody else is. I think there is an issue here that should be looked at. It's difficult for us to put together subcommittees for you because this issue is out there, and I think it should be vetted out. And I think it should be ultimately be brought to the city commission to talk about it. That's what I think, because I think it could be a serious issue with the Open Meetings Act. And I say this with all due respect. It's something that I feel pretty strongly about from what I see. You don't have to agree, nobody has to agree, and I see you had a vote. You didn't have to have a vote, you can have a subcommittee. You can just have one subcommittee. The problem is what happens in the subcommittee. And so for us all to be in that subcommittee, what are we doing? And so I just want those questions answered. I know we have an attorney here, or maybe
Yeah,
a couple
we have
attorneys
these there.
on the board. We have 3 attorneys, but none of the 3 of you are the city attorney. So I think that this deserves some review at least before we go down that road. And I'm just throwing it out there. We certainly can have subcommittees and advisory boards if that's what the decision is ultimately. But certainly what I thought would have been nice is that the full planning commission at least had the opportunity to see what the staff put together. But we had so much pushback on this. It's been very disappointing. We just wanted to have an opportunity to present this in front of the full planning commission. And I don't know why that we could never get to that point. I'm disappointed with it, to be honest with you.
Well, if
There's
I
no
can just,
reason for us to not to be able to have our presentation, but it's been a lot of pushback, push us into a subcommittee. We didn't have a chance to talk last time, and we didn't have a chance to talk this time. It would have been very nice if we had that opportunity. It would have been respectful to our staff, our full staff. And I'm sorry if that hurts anybody's feelings, but I just have to say it like it is.
And I'd like to add that I'm the city commissioner who made the motion to refer this to the planning commission, which was unanimously passed by the city commission. And I made that motion directing the whole planning commission to review the open space or addendum, amendment, the open space ordinance and the
Alice,
proposed.
and we plan to do that.
But wait, please, I'm not finished. I made that motion, and I made that motion because of a lot of things. And I think one thing that you have to understand here is that the city commission is primarily responsible for ordinance drafting and ordinance revisions. That is our responsibility, not the planning commission's. You serve in as advisory capacity, and you provide us with recommendations. We are not required to even accept your recommendations. We can direct you, when we give you directions in the form of a motion, you have to comply with what we say. The planning commission reports to the city commission. I don't think that's been the way things have been happening. It seems to me like things are turned on their side. The planning commission acts like we report to you, and that's not true, and especially with respect to ordinances, because the city commission does have primary authority. So in my motion, I directed it to the entire planning commission. There was nothing in there that said anything about a subcommittee. The intention was the entire commission would review it. Just like we did in the first matter this evening, the entire commission reviewed that. That was something that probably you would have assigned to a subcommittee as well. But we got through it. We got through it, and everybody had an opportunity to speak. And I, as a member of the planning commission, want an opportunity to speak. I don't want something in a subcommittee with a select group of people making determinations and narrowing things down for me. I want to participate, just like we all did tonight in the first matter that was on the agenda. I think that's how you can get things done more expeditiously. You can get input from everyone at the same time, because otherwise you've got a select group of people, they're talking about it, they're making decisions, and then they're presenting back to the planning commission, the whole commission, a watered down, narrowed down, focused thing that the other members had no opportunity to participate in. So I think it's a good thing, and I don't know why there's so much resistance. Why can't you just try it out? Why can't you, try it out? I mean, it worked tonight. I mean, that was a big matter that we got approved. Big matter,
Actually,
we went through it.
With all due respectfully, I don't really see that building as a big issue.
Well, there were a lot of issues to go over, and we took plenty of time with it.
I mean, you had a building that was
Well,
already there.
regardless,
Well, let's not go.
That's not my
Will,
point.
Can I just very quickly address a comment? These, call them subcommittees, or frankly, they're advisory committees. They are absolutely not exclusive. Anybody can attend.
Well,
Let me finish. To say that things happen at these meetings and you're not allowed to come, it's absolutely wrong.
I didn't say that. I did not
They're
say
subject to the Open Meetings Act.
I did
Anyone's
not say- But there was a fight last year in the city commission that went on for several months where you didn't want to notice those. The Michigan Supreme Court case
never
came
did
out.
that.
There was an argument in our city commission that no, you did not want to notice them and it was only because they were in your own bylaws that you agreed that you would notice them. You haven't been noticing them as open meetings until then. That was a year ago. So those other meetings were not open meetings.
Can we do this? Dave brought up a point, and I have not seen it. They just told me that they've done it. And I think what Dave is saying, all he wants. He just wants to show a presentation.
Let our building official have some comments, let our planners have some comments, let our engineer have some comments. And we can do a special meeting. I don't know why we can just have a special meeting.
This is.
How about I just?
So this is what the planning commission is going to do. And I wrote an email 3 weeks ago and still have yet to get an answer. And it addressed these specific issues. My email, what I did was I cited many historical properties that have been built out that had previously been approved by the Planning Commission without waiver or exception. And when we've looked at them in the last 5 years, they became exceptions, that they violated the ordinance. So our ordinance didn't change in 50 years. So what we did was, so, but, so at the end of the day, so at the end of the day, with all due respect, what is important is let's make sure that we've got, before we start making presentations, let's get through some of these basic details.
Well, it was our work to begin with, that
Well,
because we deserve
with all due respect, I believe, with all due respect, I believe that the Planning Commission deserves the respect to look at what's being presented to the Planning Commission.
Follow policy by providing the city commission with what you want. You can do that. That's part of the policy. But we follow the policy. We went to the city commission. We had direction from the city commission. They provided you with direction. And you've never allowed us to provide our findings. What you want to do is expand this and add some additional things. That's fine, but that is up to the city commission.
So and I don't want to drive more time here, but we're making these representations, and so this is what the motion said. Committees on scope.
I know, what's the motion for?
Alice's motion was to do a review of the open space. In the way,
The planning commission,
right.
The full planning commission.
So the planning commission, so we settle on this? It's 7:25. There's information that needs to be collected. And we want to sit down and collect that information, and then let's move forward. So we're going to have a committee meeting, and you're
But why
welcome.
can't we, at the next planning meeting, why can't you allow them
Well,
10
he can-
minutes to present on
He
this?
can do that, but in advance of that meeting, in advance of that meeting, in advance of the meeting, and what I would also like, so
It's kind of getting late, we've got to wrap this up.
I requested some information. I requested some city records from.
Minutes that you asked for an ordinance, I think in ordinance 348, I have it right here. It was part of my presentation.
It was part of it.
Actually, it was part of the city meeting minutes that addressed all these open space issues. It was correspondence between the city attorney, the city planner, and the city manager. And it addressed all these open space issues. I would like the Pardon me?
20 years ago?
Yeah, I do. Let me frame this. So the open space did not change for 50 years. And so I want to understand, generally, it changed.
It was 7 minutes.
So, Amy, there were changes. They weren't huge changes. Not until 2020 did we have huge changes in the zoning ordinance, in the open space ordinance. So, bottom line is, we're going to have a committee meeting. I'd appreciate if someone could furnish me with the information I asked for.
That's fine, we need to wrap up.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to adjourn this meeting.